Imagine lying awake at 2 a.m., your mind a whirlwind of unfinished to-dos, replayed arguments, and shadowy what-ifs, chaining you to the mattress like an invisible anchor. The world outside slumbers, but inside, you're adrift in a storm of your own making. The relentless monkey mind leaping from branch to branch, stealing your peace one frantic thought at a time. What if I told you that battling this chaos is the very fuel keeping it alive? That true rest isn't won through force, but surrendered like a leaf to the river's gentle current. Tonight, step into Buddhism Breeze, your lantern-lit path through ancient Zen wisdom. No rigid meditations or Herculean efforts, just tender parables of painters chasing moonlit reflections, carpenters yielding to wood's whisper, and archers rooting deep in their core. Will unravel the illusions of control, embrace the beauty of your cracks like gold-veined pottery, and dissolve loneliness in Indra's infinite jewel net. Feel your breath deepen, your body soften into the earth's embrace, as worries float away like mist at dawn. This isn't sleep advice. It's a homecoming. Lay down your burdens. Let my voice be the soft wind guiding you home. Welcome. Your sanctuary awaits. Breathe in calm. Exhale the fight. The way is ordinary, effortless. Now, tonight we will not battle the mind, nor will we seek to coerce it into silence or acquiescence. Instead, we will seek a gentler course, a course that brings us into the essence of Zen truth, a tradition that has borne its gentle wisdom across the centuries, like a lantern illuminating travelers along a dark path. These truths are not complex philosophies designed to be learned and broken down. Instead, they are simple and deep truths, seeds of understanding that can open vast inner landscapes. They are not injunctions to hold back the mind, but invitations, tender hands that lead us away from the restless din of thought and back to the quiet refuge that is always present within us. Zen encourages us to view the mind as not something to be defeated, but as a great, expansive sky that is capable of embracing all clouds of feeling and thought. Thought's passage across the sky like transient weather, occasionally light and evanescent, occasionally dark and oppressive, but the sky is not injured. It is still vast, consistent, and boundless. Tonight, we shall walk this way together. We will do that through gentle stories, soft pictures, and easy practices that recall to us a peace that is not based on quieting the mind, but that springs up effortlessly, untainted by the disturbance of thought. Welcome, then, to Buddhism Breeze. This is your sanctuary. This is your place, where you can place the weights you've carried around with you all day and let yourself be enveloped in the arms of quiet. Here there is nothing you need to accomplish, no exceptional frame of mind you need to attain. No task, no purpose, no battle. Just let my voice be a soft friend, a quiet current that leads you, as a stream flows softly over rounded stones, sweeping away dust and burdens of the day. For the time being, all I need you to do is something basic. Breathe. Sense the slow, natural pace of your breathing. Notice the soft rise and fall of your body, the ocean's tide, steady and slow. With every breath in, you get calm. With every breath out, you release tension. We enter into stillness not by resisting, but by being honest. It starts by peering gently and directly at the character of our own mind. If you listen carefully, you can hear the persistent vibration of activity, the restlessness that appears to spin and bound about, frequently preventing us from sleeping when we would wish to rest. In Zen, this restless energy is referred to as the monkey mind. The appellation is not pejorative, but rather a gentle, warm acknowledgement. The monkey mind hops eternally from branch to branch, one thought to another, one memory to a concern, one concern to an imagination, restless, inquisitive, never still. This is not to say you are damaged. This is not a defect, but the typical, untrained state of mind. Peace is not on the path of taming the monkey or rebuking it into quiet. Instead, peace comes when we learn to sit with the monkey, to witness its leaps and chatter with a gentle and non-judging heart. And over time, like a small creature that discovers it is safe, the monkey also will come to rest. There is an old Zen parable about a young painter named Kai, who dwelled in a peaceful village beside a huge, calm lake. Kai's greatest dream was to capture the moon. Not the moon in the sky, but its reflection, the perfect silver disk resting on the surface of the water. Each month, when the full moon rose, he would carry his finest brushes and silk canvases down to the lake's shore. He would sit beneath the stars, waiting for the moon to glow in still perfection upon the water. But every time, he was frustrated. A soft wind would blow across the lake, dispersing the moon into 1,000 glittering pieces. A fish would jump, its splash creating waves across the water that broke the reflection. Even the soft touch of an insect flying close to the surface caused the circle of light to quiver. Every interruption marred the picture he yearned to photograph. Frustrated, Kai attempted to regulate the lake. He threw pebbles into the lake and hoped that by doing so he could reverse the ripples and restore its tranquility. His actions, however, only served to cause more disorder. New waves, new ripples, new perturbations. The more he struggled to impose calmness upon the water, the more turbulent it became. Kai would even hold his breath at times, as if the quiet of his own body might somehow calm the lake to quietness. But the harder he struggled to impose quiet on the water, the more agitated it seemed to grow. His frustration mounted with each effort. His paintings became stiff and strained, their brushstrokes tight, his colors jarring. What he yearned to catch, the peaceful, radiant splendor of the moon's reflection, wound ever further from his grasp. The life had been squeezed from his work, and now there remained only the shadow of his despair. On a night when the full moon climbed high over the mountains, an ancient monk came down from a tiny temple perched high on the mountain. His robe rippled with the night wind, and his gait was slow, as if each footstep fit exactly into the ground. When he came to the shore, he found the young artist kneeling in despair, cursing at the wind, frowning at the shattered reflection of the moon that capered wildly on the disturbed surface of the water. The monk stood silent for a time, observing without judgment, and then, with the gentleness of one talking to a child, he sat down upon a rock beside him, his words soothing as leaves that fall, filtered into the night. The water is a very poor student, is it not? It will not remain still for you. Kai spun around at him, annoyance etched on his features. Master, he wailed, how can I ever grasp the moon when the water refuses to be still? How can I even dream of finding calm when all I see here is motion and turmoil? The monk did not respond in so many words. He pointed instead to the glimmering lake. His eyes mimicked the same moon that Kai was so eager to grasp. You're attempting to capture the moon, said the monk, and ignoring the water. You see the ripples as a defect, as an adversary to your art. Are they really an adversary? Observe closely. The shimmering, the moving light, the ceaseless dance of shadow and silver, that is the way of the water. It is not fighting the moon. It is casting a reflection of it in its own terms, in perpetual transformation. The reflection is not marred by the ripples. It emerges through them. Kai blinked, not knowing what to say. The monk's statement was not an answer, but it carried with it a soft truth he couldn't help but listen to. The old monk then leaned towards him with a half-smile. "For tonight," he said softly, "lay aside your brushes. Do not attempt to be a painter. Be the lake. Sit where the water sits. Experience the wind on your skin as the water experiences it on its surface. When a frustrated thought comes, let it ripple on your mind. Do not struggle with it. Do not attempt to smooth it out. Just observe it spread. Observe it disappear. Watch the thoughts like watching the water. See the moon as it is, not how you want it to be. Do not insist that anything else must be otherwise. Let it be, with no other option. And maybe through exhaustion." Kai complied. He laid down his brushes, allowed his silk canvas to lie in the grass, and sat next to the monk in the quiet of the evening. Initially, his restlessness welled like the tide. Impatience, irritation, the urge to paint, the need for perfection. But as he did nothing but watch, he felt something change. His own thoughts swelled and receded, just as the ripples on the water did. His mind sprang, then fell silent, then sprang again, and meanwhile he merely watched. In this still observation, a profound peace gradually spread over him. For the first time, Kai understood that his own fretting had been the most profound disturbance of all, the real storm on the lake. Time went by. The wind gentled and finally ceased. The surface of the lake became an unblemished black mirror, and the full moon glowed in it, shining, soundless, unbroken. Yet now, as he gazed upon its perfect reflection, Kay's desire to capture it had transformed. He no longer longed to possess it on his canvas. He saw that the beauty was never in a single unmoving image. The beauty lived in the ripples, the shimmer, the waiting, the watching, and finally the stillness. The entire journey was the painting. And with that awareness, peace moved upon him. Not peace of control, but peace of permitting. The tale of Kai and the lake is really the tale of our relationship with our own minds. At night, when we're in bed and yearning for sleep, we too become perfectionist painters. We want our minds to be as peaceful and silky as an untroubled lake, perfect so that we can slide gently into sleep. And when thoughts occur, concerns, recollections, plans for the next day, we view them as invaders, foes, ripples, disturbing the quiet we desire. So, as with Kai, we attempt to push the mind into stillness. We berate ourselves for thinking. We tell ourselves, stop, be still, think nothing. We attempt to banish the ripples of thought, and in the process, we are tossing pebbles into the lake, causing more commotion, more disturbance. The insight of Zen calls us to engage differently. It calls out softly, lay down the brushes, release your plan. You don't have to manage the water or enclose the mind. Just become the witness. Observe with patience, with compassion. Let the ripples come and go. Let thoughts ebb and flow like the lake's waves in the moonlight. Your mind is the lake. The thoughts are the ripples. They are not errors, not intrusions. not indications that you are doing something wrong. They are the natural, ongoing process of the mind, just as waves are the natural movement of the ocean, and the wind is the natural breath of the earth. Thoughts are not a barrier to your peace. They are simply what the mind is doing in this moment. Peace, genuine peace, is not discovered in the removal of every ripple, not in the unachievable feat of compelling the mind to become empty. Rather, it is found in the way that we interact with these ripples. When we learn to sit on the beach of our own consciousness, peaceful, aware, unwavering, and merely observe thoughts as they appear and pass away, without holding on to them, without judging them, without wanting them away, we discover a stillness that was already present beneath the surface. This is the observer's stillness. It is the quiet, roomy awareness that envelops all activity, but is not touched by it. It is similar to the wide-open night sky. Quiet, endless, holding within it the bright moon and passing clouds, regardless of the number of clouds that float by, regardless of weight or color, they never taint the sky. And in the same fashion, regardless of the number of thoughts that surface, regardless of restlessness or agitation, they cannot taint the clean awareness that is your true self. In order to take this wisdom into your own life, you don't have to do anything special. You don't have to be sitting in a temple or holding a stiff position. You can do this simply just lying here, getting ready for sleep. As you are, the first thing to do is to recognize what exists at this moment, judgmentlessly. Simply observe, what is the state of your mind at the moment? Is it active, chattering from thought to thought? Is it quiet and still? Is it agitated, hopeful, fatigued, or distracted? Whatever it is, let it be precisely as it is. There is no need to try to alter it, no need to repair it. Now, with gentle focus, bring your awareness to your breath. Notice the air coming in, cool and fresh. Notice the air going out, warm and relaxed. The breath is your anchor. It doesn't belong to yesterday or tomorrow. It is always here now. Picture yourself sitting on the bank of your own mind, and the breath is the immovable rock that you're standing on, the spot where you can safely view the lake. As thoughts do come, and they most certainly will, your practice is kind. Simply observe them. You don't have to pursue them. You don't have to shoo them away. You don't have to get them to cease. Instead, you may softly identify them, as you might name clouds passing by. A thought regarding tomorrow comes up. You kindly say to yourself inwardly, planning. A today memory crops up. You softly note, remembering. That feeling of anxiety washes through. You note, worrying. The label is not judgment. It is seeing, a manner of saying, this is merely a thought, a ripple on the water, a fleeting presence, and then, with compassion, bring your awareness back to the breath, your anchor, your solid ground. The mind will stray 100 times. That is not failure, merely the way of the monkey mind. Every time you come back to the breath, it is a moment of success, a moment of waking up out of the spell of thought and lying once more in the tranquility of the present. Be as kind to yourself as the old monk was to Kai. No rushing, no criticism, only gentle return. Let your mind be the wandering clouds. Let your breath be the firm ground that stands beneath you, and allow yourself to relax as the endless open sky that contains it all. Stop here. Allow the rhythm of your breath to feel it. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel how it rises and falls like soft waves on the beach. Feel your body relax with each exhalation, letting go of the tension you might still be holding in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest. Feel the pressure of the day seep into the mattress below you. This is your space. This is your sanctuary. And as we rest in this still awareness, we come to a truth which Zen bids us remember. A truth which comes close to being unnatural in the hectic pace of our contemporary lives. It is the teaching of non-doing. We exist within a culture which values effort. From the time we wake up, we are conditioned to try, to accomplish, to plan, to repair, to make progress. Success, we hear, is the lot of those who work harder, strive farther, do more. This attitude becomes so ingrained that we even take it to bed. We transform sleep into a task. We do sleep as if it were something to be done. We get into bed and mutter frantically to ourselves, "I have to go to sleep now." And then we start to try. But this very striving is precisely the very thing that prevents sleep. Zen wisdom challenges us to look to another alternative. The alternative of wu-wei, effortless action, the practice of not forcing, of letting things move in their own natural flow. Sleep is not gained through effort. It arrives like evening, like the tide, like a flower blossoming. It arrives when we cease demanding and simply let go. There is an ancient tale from a village that was famous for its woodworkers. A young carpenter named Lin lived in this village. Lin was powerful, driven, and resolute. He felt mastery over his art could only be achieved through force, through domination, through warping the wood to his intent. When he worked with a piece of timber, he battled it. If the grain resisted his chisel, he pressed harder, using all his strength to carve through. If the board was warped, he clamped it tightly, straining to bend it into the straight lines he desired. But the harder he struggled with the wood, the more it opposed him. His work was precise, but not gracious. His furniture was sturdy, but unyielding. His carvings were exact, but sterile. Lin's workshop was one of never-ending struggle. The air was thick with the biting noises of grunting, the rude rasp of tools, the shattering crack of splintering wood, and deep sighs of exasperation. His benches were cluttered with half-finished pieces, tables and chairs standing stiff and lifeless. They did their job, but they had no life to them. His work was functional, but it seemed to bear the weight of his labor, the stiffness of his fight. In the same village, along the riverbank, stood a far more subdued workshop. It was owned by the elderly master Wei. Wei was gaunt, his back slightly stooping with age, his hands etched from years of toil. And yet, when others gazed upon his work, they saw elegance. His furniture curved as if it had grown so naturally on its own. His works of art looked less like things created by human hands, and more like they had been shapes waiting inside the wood that he merely unveiled. Villagers would tell that Wei actually did not carve the wood at all. What he did was reveal the shapes waiting inside it all along. One evening, after yet another grueling fight with one of the oak pieces, Lin retreated from his own workshop in defeat. He strolled down to the river to observe the master at work. What he witnessed amazed him. Wei worked with no sense of haste. He would spend hours merely holding a piece of wood in his hands, feeling the weight of it, tracing the grain with his fingers, as if he were being told a secret by the wood alone. By the time he picked up his chisel, his strokes were tentative, deliberating, almost like a waltz. The wood didn't appear to be cut by the tool, but rather guided by a path already laid out by the wood. Each stroke was smooth, as if the wood had invited it. Not able to restrain his curiosity, Lin inquired, "Master, I apply all my force, and my work is heavy and clumsy. You apply nearly no force, and your work comes alive. What is your technique?" Wei smiled softly, his eyes radiating the tranquility of the river. He stooped down and picked up 2 tiny sticks from the ground. Holding one stick horizontally, he said, "This is your will." And holding the other stick upright, he added, "And this is the will of the wood, its grain, the way it grew, its own nature." He forced the 2 sticks together in a cross. When you set your will against the will of the wood, there is only conflict, resistance, splintering. Then he moved, placing one stick parallel to the other, both leading in the same direction. His tone grew gentle. "But when I work, I don't set my will against the wood. I listen. I sense its nature, its strengths and weaknesses, its own path. And then I set my will alongside it, going the same way. No struggle, no breaking. The wood teaches me what it wants to be, and I merely guide it along. The art is not in forcing. The art is in listening and aligning." Wei's wisdom is the very essence of the practice of falling asleep. Sleeping, like the wood grain, has its own volition. It has its own nature, its own pace. It cannot be ordered about, cannot be bullied into submission by brute force of will. Sleeping is not something we create. It is something that comes when the time is ripe. And so many times, as we lie abed at night, our brains racing, we push our will into resistance of sleep. We think to ourselves silently, "Sleep. I need to sleep now." We look at the clock, figuring the dwindling amount of hours remaining until morning. We clench with anger at each ticking minute. And so doing, we are as Lin in his shop, clamping wood, pushing against its natural direction, and producing only more resistance. This resistance is the enemy to rest. It is the opposite of what one invites sleep. Our striving, our grasping, our urgency, all of it creates tension and wakefulness, a state that pushes rest even further away. The wisdom of non-doing, though, calls us to the way of Wei. It calls us to let go of the struggle, to refrain from commanding, and to listen instead. It calls us to join the natural process of rest, to have faith in it, to move in harmony with it. This implies abandoning the target of sleep. Incongruously, the more we relinquish the expectation to sleep, the greater the possibility of sleep. It is as if opening a closed fist. Only when you release your grasp can something new be put into your hand. This is not a small change. This is an act of deep faith. Faith that your body already has the knowledge of how to rest. Faith that if you set the conditions right, a quiet room, a soft bed, a relaxed mind, then sleep will come in due course. But it will come naturally, like the tide coming in to shore. The art is not in attempting to sleep. The art is in releasing everything that gets in the way of sleep. And so, to become a master of this art of non-doing, start by changing your intention. As you lie here, release gently the directive, "I must sleep." Rather, substitute it with a gentler, more loving intention, "I will rest." Resting is something you can do. Rest does not depend on the clock. Rest is not measured by success or failure. Rest is here, now in this moment, available to you with each breath. Sleeping is not an activity. It's something that occurs automatically, like the sun setting or a flower blooming. Your task for the rest of this while is easy. Rest. Rest your body. Rest your mind as best you can. Let that be sufficient. Start with the body, your most immediate point of contact. Bring your awareness to every place where your body is in contact with the surface below you. Become aware of the pressure of your head against the pillow. Feel the heaviness of your shoulders, your back, your hips, and your legs settling slowly into the mattress. With each exhalation, feel yourself releasing just a little more, surrendering a little deeper, as if the earth itself were reaching up to support you. Let gravity do the work. You don't have to carry yourself anymore. You're free to let go of your weight fully. Then apply this same attitude of surrender to your muscles. Visualize a gentle light of awareness, slowly sweeping through your body, starting at the top of your head and flowing downward. Wherever this awareness lands, simply notice what's there. Tightness, ease, or fatigue, without judgment, without having to make it different. Observe the small muscles around your eyes. You do not have to push them to relax. Simply bring your awareness there and give them permission to soften. Notice your jaw, so often clenched with unspoken words or quiet effort. Let it loosen. Let it fall open just slightly. Notice your shoulders. Invite them to drift down, away from your ears, as though they are melting into the bed. This is not another task on a to-do list. It is not effort. It is gentle allowing, a gradual surrender, a letting go. Last, carry this spirit of surrender into your mind. Let the thoughts come and go, rise and fall, without having to grasp them. Let them be present, as clouds passing across the open sky. Your only job is to remain in the awareness that these thoughts arise in the spacious, silent expanse in which they manifest. If you prefer, you can reinforce this condition of surrender with a simple, unspoken word. As you breathe in, whisper to yourself softly, "I have nothing to do." And as you breathe out, allow yourself to say, "I have nowhere to go." It's a revolutionary act of contentment, a statement that the moment is sufficient. You are not attempting to fall asleep. You are resting here, now, completely, and that is fully sufficient. In stopping the striving, you set the ideal conditions for the grain of the wood to express its natural form, for the river of rest to bear you effortlessly to the deep, silent ocean of sleep. Our path now takes us in the direction of another fundamental wisdom, how to find our center. So much of contemporary life draws our energy up and out. Screens crave our attention. Voices crave our reply. The never-ending tasks of the day disperse our awareness into bits. Our cognitive energy ascends into the head, going round and round in circles of thinking, analysis, and anxiety. And at night, when distractions outside dwindle, the imbalance usually hits us even harder. We are left with this tense feeling of drifting, as if we are adrift, suspended in an ocean of thoughts, with nothing hard to anchor us to. The wisdom teachings of Zen instruct that authentic serenity and firmness are not discovered by fighting the turbulence of the mind. They are uncovered by letting our awareness drop down into the still, dense middle of the body, the place where we are grounded, stable, firmly rooted like a tree. There is a legendary tale of a young lady called Amy, who dreamed of being a master archer. She was good-natured, steady-handed, and when she trained by herself in the courtyard, her arrows were carried off with ease and beauty. Again and again, they hit the very center of the mark. But under competition, her talent abandoned her. The crowd's presence, judges' gaze, burden of expectation, these caused whirlpools of nervousness in her mind. She thought frantically, "What if I fail? They're all looking at me. I have to do better." Her body trailed behind her thoughts. Her shoulders stiffened, her breathing became shallow. Her hands shook almost unnoticeably, and thus her arrows went astray. Dismayed, Ami went to seek instruction from a Zen master, one who was a legendary marksman. The master observed her shooting. He noted her technical proficiency, but he also noted the quake under it, the unnoticeable shake of an uprooted spirit. He did not straighten her aim. He did not modify her stance. He offered no advice regarding bow or arrow. Rather, he instructed her to lay her bow down. "Your only training for the next month," he said, "will be to stand quietly for 1 hour every morning." Ami was perplexed. "Standing still won't help my aim." The master smiled and shook his head. "Your defect is not in your arms or your eyes. It is in your roots. You are like a wind-blown leaf. You must be the tree." He told her to put her hands on her lower abdomen, several inches below her navel. "This," the master said, "is your hara, your center, the source of your energy and your stability. All the agitated thoughts in your mind are like leaves that rustle in a storm. You waste your strength attempting to still the leaves, yet the wind never obeys you. Rather than fight the storm, bring your awareness down out of the agitated branches, out of the tempest in your mind, and into the still earth of your core. Breathe here. Notice the solidity. Practice living from this space." Ami did as he instructed. Every morning she stood firm, her hands on her belly, breathing softly into that still spot beneath her navel. It was maddening at first. Her thoughts flashed back to its normal course. Doubts, fears, lines of spoken words, the ceaseless din of anxiety. Time and again, she had to steer herself back, as a shepherd leads an errant lamb back to the fold. But with persistence, she came back every time to the plain beat of her breath in her gut. Slowly, slowly, something shifted. She was more solid, more stable, as if she was drawing power from the earth itself. The babble in her head did not disappear. It still rustled like leaves in the wind, but it no longer swept her up. It was just weather, fleeting, anonymous, no longer hers. When the master finally allowed her to pick up her bow again, Ami stepped onto the range with a new presence. The crowd was still there. The eyes of the judges were still upon her. The pressure had not disappeared, but she had discovered her anchor. As thoughts of fear rose in her mind, she did not resist them, nor did she let them rule her. She simply kept her awareness rooted in her center, in the slow, deep rhythm of her breath. She drew the bow. Her arms, no longer tense, moved with ease. Her gaze softened. Her energy flowed from a deep, stable place. She released the arrow. It flew silent and true, piercing the very heart of the target. Ami's journey, from the storm of the head into the stillness of the hara, is the same journey we are invited to take, especially when we are seeking rest. The storm of anxiety, the looping what-ifs, the replayed conversations, This is the chaos of the leaves, and just as leaves can never be stilled by tugging at each one, our anxious thoughts cannot be calmed by more thinking. To try is like pouring oil on a fire. Our efforts only feed the flames. Zen offers another way. Shift the seat of your awareness. Step down from the storm of the mind into the solid ground of the body, specifically into the hara, the deep center just below the navel. Here lies immense stillness, a reservoir of strength. It is not an abstract idea, but a living, physical experience. When you rest your attention here, the breath naturally deepens. The nervous system softens. The body begins to feel heavier, anchored, connected to the earth beneath you. Thoughts may still rustle above, but they no longer have the same hold. You are no longer a leaf tossed about by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, steady, unshakable. This shift from thinking into feeling, from head into body, is one of the most direct pathways into the calm that welcomes sleep. You can try this grounding now. As you lie here, if it feels right, place one or both hands gently on your lower abdomen. Let your palms rest softly. A quiet gesture of connection. The warmth of your hands can guide your awareness inward, like a lantern illuminating the doorway to your center. Begin to invite your breath into this place. As you inhale, imagine the breath traveling all the way down beneath your hands, filling your belly like a soft balloon, round and effortless. As you exhale, feel the gentle falling, the release, as though the earth itself is drawing the breath back down. Do not force anything. This is not control, but invitation. Allow the breath to find its own depth. Notice the subtle warmth beneath your palms. Feel the rhythmic expansion and release. You are resting now in the very center of yourself, the place beneath the storm, the place where stillness lives. This, the master said, resting his hand just below the navel, is your hara, your center, the root of your energy and your life. All the frantic thoughts in your head are like leaves rustling wildly in a storm. Do not waste your energy trying to calm the leaves one by one. The wind will not listen. Instead, bring your awareness down out of the storm in your head and into the silent, steady earth of your center. Breathe into this place. Feel its solidity. Learn to live here. Amai practiced as he instructed. At first, it was not easy. Her mind, accustomed to racing through worry and doubt, leapt back into its patterns the moment she turned inward. Thoughts crowded her like restless birds. But each time, with quiet persistence, she guided her awareness back down again and again into the calm, steady feeling of her breath filling her belly. Slowly, the shift began. She felt herself more grounded, more solid, as if she were drawing strength up from the earth itself. The constant chatter in her head did not vanish. It still whispered and hummed like wind through branches, but it no longer carried her away. It became background noise, nothing more. It was just the sound of the wind, and it was no longer her. When the master finally placed the bow back in her hands, Amy stepped onto the range with a new sense of presence. The crowd was still gathered, the judges still watching, the old pressure still heavy in the air. But this time she had discovered a place to stand within herself. As the familiar thoughts of fear arose, she did not fight them. She did not scold them. She simply anchored her awareness in her center, in the slow, deep rhythm of her breath in her belly. She drew the bowstring back. Her arms relaxed, her mind grew quiet. Her energy rose from that deep, stable place. The arrow flew silent and true, burying itself in the very heart of the target. Mind's journey from the restless storm of her head into the steady ground of her hara is the same journey we are all invited to take, especially when we long for rest. The storm of anxiety, the endless what-ifs, the replayed conversations from the day. This is the chaos of the leaves. We cannot think our way into peace. Trying to solve anxiety with more thought is like trying to put out a fire with oil. It only feeds the flames. Zen wisdom points to another way. Shift the seat of your awareness. Drop it out of the spinning mind and into the body, into the deep, quiet center that is always there. This center, the hara, is a wellspring of stillness and strength. It is not just an idea. It is a direct, physical experience. When you rest your awareness here, your breath naturally deepens. Your nervous system softens. Your body feels heavier, steadier, more connected to the ground beneath you. Thoughts may still drift and stir above, but they lose their power over you. You are no longer a leaf tossed by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, grounded, unshakable. This shift from thinking to feeling, from head to belly, is one of the most direct paths into the deep calm that prepares the way for sleep. You can practice this grounding right now. As you lie here, if it feels comfortable, gently place one or both hands on your lower abdomen. Feel the warmth of your palms, a quiet signal guiding your attention downward. Let this touch be like an anchor, a reminder of your center. Now, begin to invite your breath into this space. As you inhale, imagine the breath traveling all the way down beneath your hands, filling your belly like a soft balloon, round and effortless. As you exhale, feel the gentle falling, the release, as though the earth itself is drawing your breath back down. There is no need to force anything. This is not control, but invitation. Allow the breath to find its own rhythm, its own depth. Notice the warmth of your hands sinking into your body. Notice the subtle rise and fall beneath them, the quiet rhythm, steady and dependable, like waves meeting the shore. You are resting now in your center, beneath the storm, beneath the leaves, in the place of stillness that has been waiting for you all along. Let this be the entire focus of your attention. Rest your awareness in the warmth and gentle rise and fall beneath your hands, in the soft rhythm of your breath moving through your center. Your mind will, of course, wander back up into thought. It is simply what minds do. When it does, notice it kindly, without any criticism. Acknowledge the thought, then gently, patiently guide your awareness back down to the steady warmth and quiet movement in your belly. With every exhalation, imagine yourself sinking a little deeper into the mattress, heavier, more grounded, more at ease. You might picture a small glowing sphere of golden light resting in your hara, warm and steady. This golden ball is like an anchor of calm, holding you in safety and stability. When a wave of worry or distraction arises, imagine it as nothing more than a passing cloud high above in the sky. You are not the cloud. You are the earth beneath, rooted, still, and steady. Let this feeling of groundedness be your refuge tonight. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to solve. The world can spin on without you for a while. Your only task is to rest here at your core, in the quiet solidity of your own being. And now, having found some measure of rootedness, we can begin to look at the contents of the mind with a softer, kinder gaze. For so often, what keeps us awake at night is not only the restless energy of thoughts, but the voice of the inner judge. As the world around us grows quiet, this internal critic grows loud, replaying the events of the day, pointing out every mistake, every shortcoming, every moment where we feel we did not measure up. We lie in the dark, auditing ourselves with relentless scrutiny, holding ourselves to a standard of perfection that we would never demand of anyone we love. And this inner battle, this constant self-criticism, is exhausting. It creates a conflict within us, and conflict is the enemy of rest. Zen wisdom offers a gentle and transformative antidote to this poison of perfectionism. It is the teaching of wabi-sabi, the art of finding beauty in imperfection, in incompleteness, in the marks of time and touch. There is a story told of a young potter named Kenji, whose life was consumed by the pursuit of perfection. From dawn until dusk, he worked tirelessly at his wheel, his brow furrowed, his hands moving with practiced precision. His dream was to create the perfect tea bowl, a vessel flawlessly symmetrical, smooth and unbroken in glaze, perfectly balanced in weight, a piece without blemish. Kenji was gifted, but his obsession became his torment. For every bowl he allowed to remain on the shelf, he smashed 100 more. The faintest wobble in the rim, the tiniest bubble in the glaze, the slightest fingerprint left in the clay, any mark of human imperfection, and the piece was cast aside in disgust. His workshop floor became a graveyard of broken shards, the fragments of his own impossible expectations. One day, news spread that the most respected tea master in the province would be passing through the village. This was a great honor, for the tea master's eye for beauty was renowned. The village elder came to Kenji and asked him to create a bowl worthy of serving tea to the master himself. Kenji felt both proud and terrified. At last, here was his chance to prove himself, but he also knew the weight of the task. For days and nights, he worked without rest, his hands raw, his mind consumed by the vision of the flawless bowl he must create. This was the chance Kenji had been waiting for, the ultimate test of his skill. He threw himself into the work with desperate intensity. For weeks, he barely ate or slept. His hands spun clay hour after hour, his mind burning with perfectionism. Bowl after bowl emerged from his wheel, each one more technically flawless than the last. Their rims were smooth, their glazes even, their shapes exact, but still, none of them felt alive. They were cold, sterile, empty of soul. On the eve of the master's arrival, Kenji sat before his latest creation, a bowl as close to perfect as he had ever made. Yet, when he looked at it, something in him recoiled. It was lifeless. In despair, he smashed it to the ground, shards scattering across the floor. With nothing left, exhausted and hollow, Kenji sat among the ruins of his own striving. And then his eyes fell upon a bowl he had discarded weeks earlier. It was nothing special. He had made it absent-mindedly at the end of a long day, and to his perfectionist's eye, it had been a failure. Its rim was uneven, one side slightly higher than the other. A thin, dark crack had formed in the glaze during firing, a flaw that had once filled him with shame. But now, in his state of surrender, he saw it differently. The uneven rim curved with a gentle character. The crack was no longer a scar, but a story, a testament to fire and time. The bowl felt humble, imperfect, but undeniably real. With no other option, Kenji decided to present this bowl to the tea master. The next day, when the master arrived, he received the bowl in silence. He turned it slowly in his hands, his thumb pausing to trace the line of the crack. Kenji held his breath, certain he would be scolded, humiliated. But when the master finally looked up, his eyes were not critical. They were filled with appreciation. "This," the master said softly, "is a bowl that understands tea. It is a bowl that understands life. It does not pretend to be flawless. Its imperfection tells its story, its journey through the fire. It is beautiful." The tea master's wisdom speaks to the heart of wabi-sabi. True beauty is not found in sterile perfection, but in the humble, authentic, transient nature of life itself. A wabi-sabi heart sees beauty in the weathered stone, in the gnarled branch of an old tree, in a tea bowl with a crack that reveals its passage through fire. Imperfections are not failures. They are marks of existence, the signatures of time, the evidence of life lived fully. And so often we are like Kenji. We hide our cracks, our vulnerabilities, our flaws. We strive to present a polished version of ourselves to the world. And when night falls, our inner critic emerges, tormenting us for every imperfection, every moment of weakness, every place we fell short of an impossible standard. This inner war exhausts us, keeping us restless and awake. The teaching of wabi-sabi is an invitation to lay down our arms. It is a practice of radical self-acceptance. It is the permission to be human. Your life, your body, your mind, your day, they will never be perfect. You will falter. You will carry scars. You will have moments of clumsiness, of regret. But wisdom is not about erasing these flaws. It is about holding them with the same tenderness and reverence the tea master held Kenji's bowl. Can you trace the lines of your own cracks, not with judgment, but with compassion? Can you see them as the places where your humanity is most visible, the places that make you real, the places that make you beautiful? You can practice this self-acceptance now, at the end of your day. Instead of letting your mind default to a critical review, gently guide it toward compassion. Let a single moment from your day come to mind. A moment when you felt less than your best. Perhaps you were impatient with someone. Perhaps you made a mistake. Perhaps you stumbled in a conversation. Let the memory arise. Notice the sting of self-judgment that may come with it, but do not push it away. Now imagine you are the old tea master, holding this moment in your hands as though it were a bowl. Look at it with wise, kind eyes. See the humanity in it. See the tired person who made the mistake, the overwhelmed person who lost their patience. Can you offer this person yourself a drop of compassion? Instead of judgment, offer a gentle phrase of kindness. It is okay to make mistakes. I did the best I could in that moment. I am human. You may also picture the flaw itself, the crack in the bowl of your being. Instead of wishing it gone, imagine you are practicing kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. Visualize a warm, golden light of compassion filling the crack. See the line illuminated, glowing softly, transformed into something unique and beautiful. Your cracks do not make you broken. They make you whole. They are the lines of your story, the evidence of your resilience, the golden seams that reveal your truth. Let this golden light of acceptance pour into every place in you that feels broken, inadequate, or unworthy. See it filling the hairline fractures, the hidden corners, the tender scars of your being. This is not about excusing harm or pretending mistakes don't matter. It is about ending the cycle of self-hatred, the inner war that often fuels the very patterns we long to change. It is about recognizing that real growth, real transformation, can only take root in the soil of self-acceptance. Tonight, release the impossible demand of perfection. Offer yourself the same grace you would so naturally extend to a dear friend. You are the imperfect bowl, and you are beautiful, not in spite of your cracks, but because of them. Let's pause here together. Take a slow, steady breath in. Fill your lungs completely. Then release it with a long, gentle sigh. Feel your body sink a little deeper into the surface that supports it, as though the earth itself is holding you close. Let go of the day. Let go of striving. Let go of the need to be anywhere other than here. This moment is enough. And as we soften into this acceptance, we turn toward one of the most fundamental truths of life. A truth that, when embraced, can dissolve vast layers of our anxiety. It is the teaching of impermanence. Our minds instinctively seek solid ground. We long for permanence in a world that is always moving. We cling to what we love, moments of happiness, cherished relationships, our youth, our health, wishing desperately that they would last forever. This clinging, this resistance to change, creates an undercurrent of tension in our lives. A subtle, constant fear of loss hums beneath our days, and at night it can emerge as anxious worry about the future, about what might be taken away. We cling not only to joy, but to pain. We hold tightly to our identities, our roles, even our wounds and old stories, afraid of what might happen if we let them go. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence, Aniyika, is not a grim declaration that all things fade. It is a compassionate invitation to release our grip, to stop fighting the natural, graceful flow of life, and to discover peace in the letting go. There is a tale told of a great king who ruled over an empire of immense wealth and power. He possessed everything a person could desire: palaces of marble, gardens of extraordinary beauty, riches beyond counting. Yet, for all his treasure, he was deeply anxious. His greatest joy, his single refuge, was to climb to the highest tower of his palace and watch the clouds. He loved their magnificent shapes, the way they shifted endlessly, the way their edges glowed gold at sunrise and blazed crimson at sunset. To him, they were symbols of pure perfection and beauty. But his joy was always mixed with sorrow, for even the most glorious cloud, no matter how radiant, would inevitably drift away, dissolve, or change its form. This transience tormented him. He could not bear the thought that beauty must vanish. And so the king conceived a plan. He became obsessed with the idea of possessing one perfect cloud. If he could capture it, hold it, freeze it in time, then he would never again fear loss. He summoned the greatest minds in his kingdom and gave his command: "Bring me the most beautiful cloud in the sky. I want it captured so I may admire it forever." His architects designed a colossal tower, taller than any before, its peak reaching up into the heavens. His engineers devised a massive net woven of the finest silk, strong and delicate enough to grasp the elusive sky. His scholars and scientists proposed a vast crystal chamber, airtight and sealed. where the cloud could be displayed in the throne room for all eternity. Years passed. Fortunes from the royal treasury were poured into the project. Thousands of hands labored day and night, and at last, the day came. From the palace tower, they spied a magnificent golden-edged cloud, drifting majestically across the afternoon sky. It glowed with a beauty so radiant, it seemed not of this earth. With tremendous effort, the net was cast. Slowly, painstakingly, they lowered the cloud into the great crystal chamber and sealed it tight. The king was ecstatic. He had done what no one else had ever dreamed. He had conquered impermanence. But as the king sat proudly on his throne, ready to admire his great prize, a strange and sorrowful thing began to unfold. The magnificent cloud, cut off from the wind that carried it, cut off from the sunlight that illuminated it, cut off from the open sky that had given it space to drift, began to lose its form. Its radiant golden edges dimmed. Its graceful shape collapsed. Slowly, it shrank, turning into a formless, heavy gray fog. The fog thickened, condensed, and finally sank to the bottom of the chamber. What had once been a glorious jewel of the heavens was now nothing more than a few shallow puddles of murky water. The king stared in horror. His triumph had become his loss. The very act of trying to possess the cloud had destroyed the beauty he had longed to preserve. And then, from the edge of the hall, a humble gardener who had been quietly tending the palace plants spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried with it the weight of truth. "Your Majesty," he said, "you can only love a cloud when you let it be free. Its beauty is not in being captured. Its beauty is in its flowing. The king's folly is our own. We, too, try to capture the clouds of our lives, to seal them in crystal boxes so they will never fade. We cling to moments of happiness, to treasured days, to feelings of love and connection. And as soon as joy arrives, the mind whispers, 'I want to keep this. I don't want this to end.' But this desire, this clinging, is the root of our anxiety. It pulls us out of the beauty of the moment itself and into fear about its loss. We stop enjoying the cloud and begin to obsess over the net. The wisdom of impermanence is the wisdom of the gardener. True peace and true joy are found not in clinging, but in letting life flow, loving the clouds without needing to possess them. This teaching has two sides, like the two wings of a bird. On one side, when we experience pain, impermanence is our comfort. A storm of sadness, anger, or fear may feel overwhelming and endless, but no storm lasts forever. Even the darkest cloud will eventually shift, dissolve, and pass. Remembering this allows us to endure hardship with patience. We don't have to fight the storm so fiercely. We can allow it to move through us, knowing it is temporary weather. On the other side, when we experience joy, impermanence deepens our love. Knowing that happiness too will pass makes it all the more precious. Instead of anxiously clinging, we relax into presence. We savor each detail, the sound of laughter, the colors of the sunset, the warmth of a friend's hand, knowing that this exact moment will never return. Impermanence transforms clinging into gratitude. It awakens us to the gift of life as it is, here and now. To embody this wisdom, we need only look to something always with us, the breath. The breath is the perfect teacher of impermanence. It is in constant motion, never static, always arising and passing away. Every inhalation is a beginning, a birth, a pause. Every exhalation is an ending, a letting go, a death that makes space for the next inhalation to arise. You cannot hold the breath. If you try to cling to it, you suffocate. To live is to participate in this endless rhythm of arising and dissolving. So now, as you lie here, bring your gentle attention to the breath. Notice the journey of one full inhalation, from the very first stir of air entering to its completion. Then notice the journey of one full exhalation, all the way to the end. Feel the constant change, the flow that never stops. There is nothing here to hold on to. Simply rest in this rhythm. The same rhythm that animates every leaf, every tide, every star. This is the pulse of the universe, and it is moving within you in every moment. You can extend this practice beyond the breath to the events of your day. As you continue to breathe gently, allow moments from the day to drift through your mind. A conversation, a meal, a moment of frustration, a moment of ease. See each memory as a cloud that once appeared in the sky of your awareness. With each inhalation, acknowledge the moment. With each exhalation, let it go, not erasing it, not pushing it away, simply recognizing that its time is over, that it has passed. Every moment arises. Every moment passes. This is the dance of impermanence. This is life. Let each exhale be more than just the release of air. Let it be a gentle loosening of your grip on the past. Every breath out is a small act of surrender, a soft opening of the hand that clutches. This practice is especially powerful for both the pleasant moments that your mind longs to cling to and the unpleasant moments it struggles to resist. With each breath out, you are training the mind in the graceful art of letting go. You are learning to be like the vast open sky, untouched, unburdened, allowing all the clouds of experience to drift through, without needing to capture or hold a single one. This is freedom. This is peace. This is the wisdom that allows you to rest deeply, at ease with the ever-changing, ever-flowing nature of life. And as we begin to accept this truth of impermanence, we are gently led to an even more subtle and profound insight. So often we feel overwhelmed by our own minds. The sheer flood of thoughts, memories, plans, and worries can feel like a dense forest, crowding us in, suffocating us. We experience our thoughts as heavy, solid, and undeniable. And more than this, we experience them as me. We believe we are the thinker of the thoughts, the voice in the head, the constant commentator narrating our days. And yet, Zen practice invites us to question this, to look not only at the noise, but for the silence that holds the noise, to look not only at the content, but for the space that allows the content to appear. This is the gateway to the liberating wisdom of emptiness. There is a story of a young apprentice named Ren, who longed to study the art of calligraphy under a great Zen master. His master gave him a single, simple task to practice drawing the enso, the Zen circle, painted in a single fluid brushstroke. In Zen, the enso symbolizes the universe, enlightenment, the void, and the deep truth of all things. Ren practiced for months. He sat at his desk for hours each day, his brush in hand, his ink carefully prepared. But each circle he drew filled him with frustration. He was utterly focused on the black ink, on the weight of the brush, on the line itself. He tried to control every detail, to make each circle perfectly round, perfectly smooth, perfectly solid. But the harder he tried, the worse they became. His circles were heavy, stiff, lifeless. They looked less like symbols of the universe and more like cages, tight, closed, suffocating. One day, the master came to watch him practice. He immediately noticed the tension in Ren's shoulders, the tightness of his grip on the brush, the fierce concentration in his brow. The master said nothing at first. Then he picked up a fresh piece of paper and laid it gently on the table. He did not reach for a brush. He simply sat, gazing at the wide, clean expanse of white. Finally, he spoke. "Ren, you are trying to draw a circle. All your attention is on what you are adding. The ink, the line, the stroke, but you are ignoring what is already here." He gestured toward the page. "This white space is not nothing. It is not a void to be filled. It is a living space, a presence. The ink does not create the circle. The ink only reveals the circle that is already possible within this space. The circle is not made only of the line. It is made equally of the paper inside it, and the paper outside it. Without emptiness, there is no form. The ink gives it shape, but the space gives it life. Stop trying to paint a thing. Learn instead to feel the space. The space is not your enemy. It is your partner." Ren was puzzled, but he trusted his master. For many days, he set down his brush. He stopped practicing the stroke altogether. Instead, he sat before the blank page in silence. He breathed. He waited. He allowed himself to feel the vast, quiet potential in the white expanse. Slowly, he began to sense it, not as emptiness to be conquered, but as presence, as possibility, as life itself. When at last he picked up his brush again, something had shifted. His hand was no longer tense. His mind was no longer fixed on perfection. With one deep, centered breath, he dipped the brush into the ink and allowed the circle to emerge, not forced, not controlled, but flowing naturally out of the silence. The Enso he painted was not flawless, but it was alive. The stroke was fluid, effortless, alive. For the first time, Ren's circle was not a cage, but a window into the vastness, a symbol not of confinement, but of freedom. The apprentice's discovery is a profound metaphor for the practice of meditation and the discovery of inner peace. Our thoughts, our worries, our emotions, these are the ink strokes, and usually we are completely identified with them. We believe they are solid and real. We believe they define who we are, and so we feel crowded, trapped, and overwhelmed by their constant movement. The wisdom of shunyata, or emptiness, is the master's reminder to feel the space. Emptiness in this sense does not mean bleak nothingness. It does not mean that life is meaningless. Rather, it points to the truth that our thoughts and feelings are empty of independent existence. They are like the ink strokes. They cannot exist without the paper beneath them. They rise and fall only within the silent, spacious consciousness in which they appear. This consciousness, this awareness, is like the empty page. It is always here, silent, vast, unchanging, beneath and around the noise of our thinking. And just as the page is never truly harmed by the marks of ink upon it, awareness is never disturbed by the content of the mind. Peace does not come from trying to erase thoughts, from wiping the page clean. Peace comes from shifting our attention, our very sense of identity, from the ink strokes of thought to the open paper of awareness itself, when we recognize that we are not the fleeting thoughts, but the space in which they happen. A profound freedom arises. We are no longer trapped inside the black circles of our worries. We are the page, spacious, still, and able to hold everything with ease. You can experience this directly through practice. Begin by becoming aware of the sounds around you, the hum of a fan, the whisper of wind, the creak of a floorboard, perhaps even the sound of your own breath. These sounds are like strokes of ink. Now shift your attention and notice not just the sounds, but the silence that allows them to be heard. Sense the vast, quiet field in which sound appears and disappears. That silence is always here. You do not need to create it. You need only notice. Then, turn the same form of listening inward. Become aware of your thoughts as they rise, like inner sounds, like images on a screen. They are the content. But can you also become aware of the silence behind them, the still awareness that watches without judgment? Notice that between one thought ending and the next beginning, there is a tiny gap, a moment of pure stillness. Rest there, even for an instant. This is not about lengthening the gaps or forcing the mind to stop. It is simply about becoming more interested in the space than in the furniture within it. You might ask yourself gently, what is it that is aware of this thought? Do not look for a verbal answer. Instead, feel into the quiet knowing presence that is here before the thought, during the thought, and after the thought has gone. This presence is your true nature. It is spacious, peaceful, free. By shifting your identity from the restless content to the timeless awareness that holds it all, you find an unshakable peace. A peace not dependent on your mind being silent, but a peace that is already here, like the page that remains beneath every mark. And when we learn to see the vast empty space of awareness, we realize something even deeper. It is not a cold void. It is a space of infinite potential. It is a space that can hold not only our thoughts and worries, but also a boundless capacity for warmth, kindness, and connection. So often, when we suffer, our awareness contracts. We shrink into the small, lonely room of our problems. Our hearts, in their attempt to shield us from further hurt, grow hard and closed. At night, this sense of separation can feel especially acute, like a chill pressing in from all sides. But the wisdom of the Buddhist path reminds us that the healing of isolation is found in compassion. The heart of emptiness is not emptiness at all. It is love. It is the recognition that we are not separate, that we are all threads of the same great fabric, that to open to another is to open more deeply to ourselves. Compassion is not weakness, it is strength. An open heart is a peaceful heart, and when we extend compassion to ourselves first, and then to all beings, we dissolve the walls of loneliness and discover the vast, tender spaciousness that is our true home. There was once a monk named Deva, who lived in a monastery perched high on a cliffside, overlooking a wide and flowing river. Deva was a man of great discipline and formidable intellect. He knew the scriptures word for word, their meanings sharp in his mind. His meditation was strong, unwavering, concentrated like the blade of a sword. But his heart was like stone. From his lofty vantage point, he often looked down upon the villagers who lived along the riverbanks. Their noisy markets, their laughter, their quarrels, their struggles to feed their families, all of it seemed to him a distraction, the mark of spiritual immaturity. To Deva, they were entangled in worldly attachments, while he, above them, walked the pure, solitary path. He believed enlightenment was about rising above the messiness of the world, cutting ties, transcending suffering, becoming untouchable. Then, one year, the rains did not come. A terrible drought spread across the valley. The great river, once a roaring lifeline, shrank day by day, retreating until only cracked plains of mud stretched where water once flowed. Life in the valley began to wither. The crops failed. The villagers despaired. From his monastery, Deva watched, detached. His mind repeated, "This is the nature of suffering. This is impermanence. This has nothing to do with me." One afternoon, walking along the exposed riverbed, he came across a small, shallow pool of muddy water, and in it, gasping weakly, flapping in desperation, was a single fish. Its scales were coated in mud, its gills opening and closing in frantic search of air, its life force slipping away. Deva's first thought was the familiar voice of detachment. This is its karma. This is impermanence. All things must pass. He turned to walk on, but then he paused. He looked again, and something shifted. As he gazed at the fish, a sharp pang rose in his own chest. He felt the fish's thirst as though it were his own. He felt its fear. Its desperate struggle mirrored his own quiet struggle for peace. In the fragile body of that little creature, he saw himself. And in that moment, the stone wall around his heart cracked. Without thinking further, he waded into the mud, cupped his hands gently beneath the fish, and carried it carefully down the long stretch of riverbed until he reached the main channel, where water still flowed. There, he bent low and released it. He watched as it slipped from his palms into the cool depths, its body stirring with renewed life as it swam away. Something in Deva's heart broke open, and at the same time, something healed. He realized in that instant that the river was not just water flowing through the valley. The river was life itself, flowing through him, through the fish, through the villagers, through all beings. Their suffering was not separate from his. It was a shared current. He walked back to his monastery, no longer a man who stood above the world, but one who was deeply, tenderly a part of it. From that day forward, his meditation was no longer cold, sharp discipline. It was warm, expansive presence. It was the practice of holding the whole world in his heart. Deva's awakening by the river is the essence of Karudza, compassion. It is the moment we stop being a detached observer of suffering and allow ourselves to feel our shared humanity. Compassion is not pity, which looks down from a distance. Compassion is empathy, the willingness to feel with another, to recognize our shared vulnerability, and to wish sincerely that all beings be free from suffering. And compassion has a close companion, metta, loving kindness. If compassion is the wish that beings be free from suffering, then loving kindness is the wish that beings be happy and well. Together, they are the two wings of the bird of awakening. Wisdom and intellect are one wing, but without the other wing of compassion, the bird cannot fly. This practice of compassion and kindness is also the most powerful antidote to the states of mind that keep us awake at night. Fear, anger, judgment, loneliness. A heart that is hard and critical toward itself or others is tense and contracted. A heart that radiates kindness is soft, open, and at rest. And importantly, compassion must begin with ourselves. We cannot pour water from an empty well. Many of us find it easier to feel compassion for a suffering animal or for a friend in pain than for ourselves. Yet when we meet our own struggles, our mistakes, our anxieties, our exhaustion with harshness, we deepen our suffering. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is not weakness. It is the fertile soil from which all true growth and kindness arise. The practice of self-compassion is the radical act of turning the warmth of the heart inward. It is learning to hold our own pain, our own struggles, with the same tenderness we would offer to a dear friend or a loved child. When we begin to do this, when we learn to be a true friend to ourselves, the feeling of anxious isolation starts to soften. The walls around the heart grow thinner. A deep and steady peace begins to take root. To water the seeds of compassion in your own heart, you can practice a simple, loving kindness meditation as you prepare for sleep. This practice does not demand that you feel a certain way. It is not about forcing emotion. It is about setting a gentle intention. The sincerity of the wish is what matters. Find a comfortable position. If it feels natural, place a hand over the center of your chest. Let this physical gesture remind you of tenderness, of care. Begin with yourself. Slowly, silently repeat these phrases in your mind, letting them be like soft prayers, like ripples spreading across a still pond. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Let the words be gentle. You do not need to believe them fully. You do not need to summon emotion. You are simply planting seeds in the soil of your heart. If resistance arises, if feelings of unworthiness appear, meet those too with kindness. Offer compassion even to the part of you that struggles to accept compassion. Stay with this for a few moments, offering yourself this unconditional goodwill. Then, when you are ready, bring to mind someone you love easily. A dear friend, a family member, even a beloved pet. Picture them clearly in your mind, resting safely, smiling. Now direct the same phrases toward them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Let the warmth of your natural love carry these wishes like a gentle stream. From here, if it feels comfortable, you can expand the circle. Think of someone neutral in your life, perhaps a neighbor, a coworker, or a person you see often, but do not know well. Offer them the same kindness. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Then allow the circle to widen further. To the people in your home, to your city, to your country. Finally, extend your wish outward to all beings everywhere, without exception, to every human, every animal, every living thing. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with ease. This practice gently dissolves the walls of separation. It connects you to the great current of shared humanity, to the universal wish for peace that lives in every heart, and it offers you a soft and gentle way to fall asleep, not wrapped in the cold blanket of worry, but in the boundless warmth of kindness. Pause here. Feel the quiet presence in the center of your chest. Let your breath be soft and easy. Allow your heart to feel open, spacious, and at rest. You are held in a vast web of kindness. You are not alone. And now, having opened the heart, we can turn toward the mind with a new sense of possibility. For often our inner world feels like a chaotic wilderness, a tangled jungle of thoughts and emotions over which we seem to have no control. In the vulnerable quiet of the night, we feel at the mercy of whatever worry or mood happens to arise. This helplessness itself becomes a source of anxiety. But the Buddha's teachings remind us of something liberating. We are not prisoners of our minds. We are their gardeners. We may not be able to control the weather. Storms will come. Dry seasons will arrive. And no matter how carefully we tend the soil, seeds of weeds will always blow in on the wind. But we absolutely have the power to tend the ground of our own mind. We have the power to nourish the plants we wish to grow, and to gently remove the weeds that choke the life from the garden. This is the practice of cultivating skillful states of mind. Your mind is a royal garden, vast, fertile, alive with possibility. In this garden, the unskillful states of mind, what the Buddha called akusala, are the thorny weeds. These weeds are not bad in a moral sense, but they are unhelpful because they cause suffering for ourselves and for others. They are states like anger, resentment, jealousy, greed, worry, and anxiety. When we let them spread unchecked, they create a harsh and painful inner landscape, a tangle of thorns where it is difficult to rest. The skillful states of mind, or kusala, are the flowers and fruit trees. These are the qualities that bring nourishment and beauty, kindness, compassion, patience, generosity, gratitude, calm. They are called skillful because when they grow strong, they lead directly to peace, to joy, to well-being. And yet, so often we feel as though our inner gardens are hopelessly overrun with weeds. Fear and worry seem to sprout faster than anything else. Resentments appear like thistles pushing through the soil. We feel caught in an endless battle, pulling weeds one day only to see them return the next. But the wisdom of the gardener is different. A gardener knows not to despair. A gardener learns to recognize clearly what is a weed and what is a flower. The work is not to destroy or hate the weeds, but simply to stop feeding them, to stop giving them water and sunlight. And at the same time, the gardener gives care and nourishment to the plants they wish to see flourish. Your practice, as a wise gardener of the mind, is twofold. First, to withdraw your attention gently but firmly from the weeds. Second, to consciously and intentionally water the flowers. Let us begin with the first step, gently pulling a weed. As you lie here, notice if there is a persistent thought pattern active in your mind right now. Perhaps it is a worry about tomorrow. Perhaps it is a replay of something that happened today. Perhaps it is an old resentment. See this thought clearly as a thorny weed. It is not a truth. It is not who you are. It is simply a weed that, if fed, will grow and spread. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to hate it. Simply see it for what it is, and then make a conscious choice not to water it. You might say quietly to yourself, "This is not a helpful path for my mind to take right now." And if the thought returns, as it surely will, you repeat the gesture again and again, as often as needed. Just as a gardener pulls the same kind of weed many times over a season, you patiently and kindly guide your mind back. The second step, the more powerful one, is to water a flower. To do this, bring to mind something that represents a skillful state. One of the most accessible and transformative is gratitude. Gently scan through your day. Let a single small moment rise to the surface, a moment for which you can feel genuinely thankful. It does not need to be grand. Perhaps the taste of your morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight on your face, a smile from a stranger, the sound of laughter, or perhaps simply the comfort of lying here now in this bed, held by the quiet of the night. Hold this memory softly in your mind. Don't just think about it. Let yourself feel it. Notice how gratitude has a texture in the body, a warmth in the chest, a softening around the eyes, a gentle upward curve in the corners of the mouth. Let it spread. Let it linger. For a minute or two, water this seed of gratitude with your full attention. This is more than just distraction from your worries. It is transformation. It changes the very soil of your mind. It shifts you from a state of lack into a state of sufficiency, from restlessness into rest, from anxiety into ease. With every weed you choose not to water, with every flower you choose to nourish, you are shaping your inner garden. And slowly, gently, night after night, that garden becomes a place of beauty, a place of refuge, a place of peace. It is this tending of the inner garden that creates the rich, fertile soil from which a restful night's sleep can grow. You are the gardener. You carry within you the wisdom and the power to cultivate a sanctuary of deep peace in your own heart and mind. The journey we have taken so far, learning to observe the mind, to soften the heart, to tend the soil of inner being, leads us now to the central sanctuary of peace itself. So much of our inner turmoil arises from one simple fact. We are almost never fully here. Our minds are constantly living in one of two directions, pulled back into the past or projected forward into the future. We drift into the past, replaying conversations, reliving old wounds, dwelling on regrets, or we cast ourselves into the future, rehearsing challenges that have not yet come, worrying about what might go wrong, spinning webs of endless planning. And in all this time traveling, we miss the only place where life is actually happening, right here in this present moment. This wandering of the mind into past and future is the root of so much of our restlessness and anxiety. Zen practice offers a profound and simple refuge. It invites us to discover that the present moment, when we truly arrive in it, is a gateless gate, a direct doorway into the land of tranquility we have been seeking all along. There is a tale of a man who spent his entire life searching for the legendary gate of tranquility. The ancient scriptures said that beyond this gate lay a hidden kingdom where there was no suffering, no fear, no anxiety, only a perfect and unshakable peace. The man's search became his life's obsession. He pored over old maps. He sought out sages. He wandered to the farthest corners of the earth. He climbed jagged mountains, crossed scorching deserts, and sailed stormy seas. Always, he searched for the magnificent gate he imagined, carved of jade, inlaid with gold, standing proudly between two great peaks. Years became decades. His hair grew white, his body frail, his steps unsteady. Hope dwindled. At last, weary and heartsick, his travels brought him to a small, humble hut perched on a quiet mountainside. Inside lived a hermit of great age, his face lined with kindness. The old traveler poured out his story, his lifelong quest, his endless searching, his failures. His voice trembled as he whispered, I have spent my entire life seeking the gate of tranquility. Please, tell me where it is before I die." The hermit looked at him with eyes full of compassion. He said nothing at first, but gently gestured for the traveler to sit with slow, mindful movements. He lit a small fire, boiled water, and prepared a pot of tea. He poured a steaming cup and placed it carefully into the old man's hands. "Tell me," the hermit said softly, "what do you feel in your hands right now?" The traveler, startled by the question, lowered his gaze. For the first time in years, he really noticed. "I feel the warmth of the cup," he said, his voice quiet with surprise. "Good," said the hermit, nodding. "And what do you hear?" The traveler tilted his head. He listened, really listened. "I hear the wind in the pine trees. I hear my own breath. I hear the gentle hiss of the steam." "And what do you see?" asked the hermit. The traveler's eyes followed the curling steam, rising from the cup, dancing in the sunlight, changing shape with each breath of wind. He stared, mesmerized, watching its delicate forms appear and dissolve. And in that simple watching, in that moment of feeling, listening and seeing, his restless mind grew still. Yet peace, unlike any he had ever known, flooded through him. He looked up, his eyes wide, his heart suddenly light. The hermit smiled, a deep, knowing smile. "You have been searching the whole world for a great gate," the hermit said, "but the gate of tranquility is not a place you must arrive at. It has no walls, it has no doors, it has no locks. It is here, wherever you are, whenever you step fully into this moment. It is always here. The feeling of the warm cup in your hands, that is the gate. The sound of the wind moving through the trees, that is the gate. This very breath you are taking, rising and falling in your body, this too is the gate. You have passed through it 1,000,000 times already on your journey, but the mind, always searching for the next mountain to climb, never noticed. The traveler's story is our story. We too search endlessly for peace, as if it were hidden somewhere in the future. We tell ourselves, "I will rest when the bills are paid, when the relationship is fixed, when I finally achieve my goals, when I at last get a good night's sleep." We treat tranquility as a distant destination. But the most radical, liberating teaching of Zen is this: peace is not a destination. Peace is the beginning. It is the ground beneath your feet right now. It is the very nature of the present moment when it is not clouded by thoughts of past or future. The gateless gate is one of Zen's great paradoxes. How do you pass through a gate that does not exist? The answer is startlingly simple. You realize you have always been inside. The only thing keeping you from experiencing the peace of the present moment is the belief that it is elsewhere. The thinking mind is the map maker. It is always drawing paths, always charting courses away from here. But all of its maps lead away from the treasure. The treasure has always been here, beneath your feet, waiting for you to notice. When we let go of the maps, the stories, the striving, and simply arrive here in the raw and immediate reality of this breath, this body, this moment, the gate disappears. There is no threshold to cross. We are already home. This is not complicated. In fact, it is the simplest thing in the world. It is the cool weight of the blanket on your skin. It is the gentle rhythm of breath moving in and out. It is the faint hum of silence in the room. In this simple, direct reality, when it is not tangled in thought, there is a profound, effortless peace. To practice walking through the gateless gate, you can use your senses as anchors, each one a doorway into presence. As you lie here, begin by opening your awareness to sound, not straining, not searching, just receiving. What do you hear? Perhaps the sound of your own breath, faint and steady. Perhaps a quiet hum from somewhere in the room. Perhaps the deep silence that underlies all sounds. Whatever is here, allow it to come and go in its own way. Let your awareness be like the open sky, vast and spacious, with sounds drifting through like passing birds. Now bring your awareness to touch. Notice the points of contact between your body and the bed. Feel the weight of the blankets gently pressing down, holding you. Can you sense the coolness of the air against your cheek, the subtle warmth within your chest or belly, the faint tingling of aliveness in your hands or feet? Rest your attention here, in this intimate world of pure sensation, without needing to name or explain. Just feel. Next, turn to the sense of smell. Without moving, notice, is there a faint freshness in the air? The clean scent of pillowcase or sheets, perhaps nothing distinct at all. That too is fine. What matters is not what you smell, but the gentle openness to whatever is here. Each time you notice the mind has wandered into a story of yesterday or tomorrow, see it for what it is, the old traveler consulting his map again. Smile at this habit. There is no need to fight it. Simply and kindly guide your attention back to the sound of breath, back to the weight of the blanket, back to this simple, undeniable presence. This is the only gate you need, and you have already stepped through it, and it is always open. Welcome home. As we learn to rest in the open gate of the present moment, we begin to notice the patterns of our own minds with new clarity. Even when we are not lost in the past or the future, certain repetitive thoughts and feelings still arise again and again, like familiar melodies in a song. Some are gentle and pleasant, but others carry tones of fear, anxiety, or sorrow. At times, we may feel trapped by these patterns, as though we are victims of some hidden inner force that dictates our moods and shapes our fears. This feeling of being stuck, of being bound by habits of mind, is a deep source of suffering. The wisdom of the Buddha offers a liberating perspective on this experience. It is the teaching of karma, a teaching often misunderstood, yet profoundly simple. Karma reminds us that we are not helpless prisoners of our minds, but active creators of our inner world. There is an old story of a boy who wandered high into the mountains and stumbled upon a vast circular valley, surrounded on all sides by towering cliffs of stone. He had never been there before. The valley was silent and immense, and a wave of fear and loneliness washed over him. Startled, he shouted into the emptiness, "I hate you." And from all around, the cliffs shouted back, "I hate you." The boy Sep's eyes widened. His heart pounded. He thought surely there was another cruel boy hiding in the rocks, mocking him. His anger rose. He clenched his fists and shouted louder, "You are a coward." And immediately, the valley thundered back, "You are a coward." The more he yelled, the angrier the voice seemed to become. Insult after insult echoed back at him until, terrified and in tears, he fled down the mountain and ran home. When he explained to his mother what had occurred, that there was a vicious, angry boy in the mountains who yelled mean things to him, His mother, being intelligent, merely smiled. "My son," she whispered, "that is not another boy. That is the valley of the echo. The valley is not angry. It merely reflects back what is yelled into it. What you heard was your voice being thrown back at you. Return tomorrow. But tomorrow, when you approach the valley, yell something else. Yell, 'I love you.'" The lad was uncertain, but he believed his mother. So, the following day, he went back to the valley. His voice shook at first, but he shouted, "I love you." And from everywhere, the cliffs replied, "I love you. I love you." 100 voices replied to him, and his heart became full of wonder and joy. He had found the secret of the valley. He came to know he was not the victim of its voice. He was the source. This is a perfect example of karma. Karma is the most misinterpreted of the East's teachings. Karma is not a cosmic system of reward and punishment that is administered by some kind of external judge. It is merely the law of cause and effect, as natural and impersonal as the law of an echo. The valley is your mind. The words that you scream are your intention, your thoughts, your actions. The echo is the outcome, the quality of your internal world, the shape of your experience. The Buddha taught that the most important aspect of karma is intention. It is the seed of the mind, the will behind action, the flavor that we add to our thoughts. When we yell anger, resentment, fear, or self-pity into the valley of our own mind, those characteristics bounce back repeatedly. Each replay deepens the pattern, grooving deeper channels in the mind's soil. The habits develop, the neural pathways congeal, and we find that we are living in an alienated valley of our own choice. But it is not punishment. It is just the nature of the mind, always repeating back what it is being given. The most lovely and liberating aspect of this lesson is that it is always too early to change the echo, regardless of how many times anger, fear, or self-blame has bounced through your valley. The next sound you send out can be new. In this instant, you have the ability to bellow something different. You can elect kindness. You can elect gratitude. You can elect patience. At first, the new cry will sound faint, even overpowered by the old familiar refrain. The valley will still ring with echoes of yesterday. But if you keep at it, if you keep pouring out gentle, expert intentions again and again, the resonance starts to change. Slowly, gradually, the old aching echoes dwindle away, and the new ones get stronger. This is the essence of karma. You're not a victim of your mental patterns, you're their designer. In order to work competently with karma, as you get ready to sleep, you can become the aware designer of your own inner resonance. Step 1 is to listen. Listen attentively. When you become aware of a habitual, hurtful thought, perhaps a repetition of worry or a refrain of self-blame, your initial task is not to battle it. Battling the echo only creates more commotion. Your task is merely to see it for what it is, an ancient cry of the past reverberating back. You can say to yourself quietly, "Ah, this is the echo of anxiety. I recognize that sound." Or "This is the echo of fear. I have heard it before." Simply recognizing it gives you space. You are not anymore lost within the echo. You are the one who hears it. The next step is to intentionally bring in a new sound. This is not a matter of fighting with the old echo or pushing it out. It is a matter of adding something new, kindly, consciously. If the echo is worry, your new shout may be a word of trust. In this moment, all is well, or whatever comes, I will meet it with strength. If the echo is self-blame, your new cry can be an act of self-compassion. Putting a gentle hand on your heart, you whisper, "May I be kind to myself." Whether you reflect on your own life, consider how often you project your feelings onto others, how often your anger or frustration is based on assumptions or misunderstandings. How many times have you, like the boatman, been angry at something that wasn't really there? Can you remember a time when you were furious at a situation only to realize later that you had created the entire conflict in your mind? The Buddha's wisdom offers us a simple yet profound practice. When you are angry, observe the anger without becoming it. Recognize the projection and release it. This doesn't mean denying our emotions, but rather recognizing them for what they are, fleeting sensations that arise in the mind. When we stop identifying with them, we stop feeding them. Tonight, as you go through your day or evening, observe the moments when you feel anger or frustration arise. Can you identify what you are projecting onto the situation? Can you pause and release that projection, returning to the present moment with clarity and peace? In Zen, the practice is to see things as they truly are, free of the lens of our judgments and expectations. The empty boat was not the cause of the boatman's anger. His mind was, and in recognizing this, he was freed. Just like the boatman, we too can find peace by recognizing and releasing our projections, and in doing so discover the quiet wisdom that resides in the space between our thoughts. The boatman squinted through the thick gray mist, his hands firmly gripping the oars as he steered his small wooden craft across the river. The familiar waters felt different this morning, shrouded in a fog so dense that he could barely make out the shape of the opposite bank. As he maneuvered, his eyes suddenly caught sight of another boat, drifting steadily towards him through the fog. It was heading directly into his path. "Hey, turn aside," he shouted, his voice slicing through the mist, panic creeping into his tone. "You're going to hit me. Can't you see where you're going?" But the other boat didn't slow down or veer off course. It continued its steady approach, undeterred by the boatman's cries. The boatman's frustration mounted with each passing second. He shouted again, his voice now laced with fury. "Can't you hear me? Move. What kind of fool are you?" His mind raced with anger, imagining the incompetence of the other boat's pilot. How could someone be so careless? How dare they disrupt his peaceful morning journey? The tension within him grew, his heart pounding in his chest as the boats neared each other. Finally, with a sharp jolt, the two vessels collided, the impact vibrating through his boat. The boatman's anger reached a boiling point. His fists clenched, his face flushed with rage. He was ready to leap across the gap between the boats, to confront the careless pilot and unleash his fury. But as he peered through the mist at the boat that had collided with his own, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. The boat was empty. There was no one at the tiller, no one steering or even sitting in the boat. It was just a drifting vessel, caught in the current, moving without direction, with no one to blame. In that moment, his anger dissolved completely. He stood frozen for a second, the full realization settling in. There was no one to confront, no one to shout at, no target for his rage. The energy he had built up inside him, the fury that had been driving him, suddenly had nowhere to go. The anger was an empty vessel, just like the boat in front of him. With a deep breath, he pushed the empty boat gently away from his own and resumed his journey. The mist around him seemed to lift, and the water felt calm again. His mind, once boiling with irritation, was now as still as the river he was navigating. The peace he had lost in his anger returned, and he moved forward with a quiet understanding that the cause of his frustration had never really been there to begin with. Buddha's wisdom teaches us that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The true heart of this lesson lies in recognizing that much of our anger is directed at empty boats, projections of malice and intent where none exists. This story reveals a deep truth about human reactivity. We often create stories in our minds about the motivations and intentions of others that lead us to suffering. Much of our emotional pain comes not from the actions of others, but from the narratives we spin around those actions. We assume someone has wronged us when, in reality, their actions may have nothing to do with us at all. We create imaginary pilots for empty boats, attaching our anger to actions that, when examined more closely, reveal no malicious intent. Why do we do this? Why do we so readily populate empty boats with imaginary drivers to blame? One reason is that our minds are conditioned to quickly assess situations and attribute agency to them. This survival instinct, which helped our ancestors distinguish between a rustling bush caused by wind and a potential predator in the shadows, has evolved into a tendency to quickly assign negative intent in social situations. We project our emotions onto the actions of others without considering the full context. Consider your daily interactions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you immediately assume they are inconsiderate and selfish? When a colleague ignores your greeting, do you assume they are being rude or dismissive? When a friend canceled plans at the last minute, do you take it personally, interpreting it as a sign that they don't value your friendship? In each of these situations, you may be creating a pilot for an empty boat. The driver who cut you off might be rushing to get to the hospital with a sick family member. The colleague who didn't return your greeting might be dealing with personal issues or deep sadness. Your friend who canceled plans might be struggling with anxiety or other emotional challenges. Most people's actions are driven by their internal experiences, not by an intention to harm others. Zen Master Hengpo taught, "The foolish reject what they see, not what they think. The wise reject what they think, not what they see." This teaching points to the profound importance of seeing things as they are, without the filter of our assumptions, judgments, or projections. When we reject the stories we create in our minds, we free ourselves from the suffering those stories cause. In Zen practice, we learn to observe our reactions without clinging to them, to see our anger and frustration without immediately acting on them. We learn that when we stop attaching false meaning to situations, we free ourselves from the burden of unnecessary emotional suffering. Tonight, as you reflect on your interactions and experiences, can you notice when you are projecting anger or frustration onto an empty boat? Can you recognize that many of the things you carry in your mind are not based on reality, but on your own assumptions? Can you let go of those projections, releasing them into the mist, and return to the peace of the present moment? As Buddha's wisdom reminds us, in the end, only three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, and how well we have learned to let go. True spiritual practice is not about following rigid rules or trying to control every situation, but about responding to the present moment with clarity, compassion, and an open heart. It's about letting go of the imaginary pilots and empty boats we carry, and simply allowing ourselves to be carried forward by the current of life. When we react to our interpretations rather than to what actually happened, we're fighting empty boats. This doesn't mean we become passive or fail to set healthy boundaries when necessary. If someone's behavior affects you negatively, it's possible to address it with clarity and kindness without creating elaborate stories about their intentions. You can say, "When you interrupted me, I felt unheard," rather than assuming, "You're always so disrespectful and self-centered." The practice here is to pause when anger arises and ask yourself, "Am I reacting to what actually happened, or to the story I'm telling myself about what happened? Am I angry at the person's actions or at the imaginary pilots I've placed in their empty boat?" In Zen meditation, we become aware of our thoughts and emotions as passing events, not as fixed facts. If we feel anger, rather than believe it or act on it immediately, we can become aware that anger is present and ask ourselves, what tale is my mind spinning? What am I assuming about this person's motives? By doing this, we become clear about our emotions without being controlled by them. The Buddha's teaching is unambiguous. You won't be punished because of your anger. You'll be punished by your anger. Every time we fill an empty boat with a wicked captain, we cause unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Every time we recall that most boats are just floating with the current, we liberate ourselves from the weight of reactivity. Tonight, as you look back over recent episodes of frustration or anger, can you see which boats were actually driven by individuals and which were unmanned? Can you sense the difference in your body between responding to bad intent versus reacting to plain circumstance? As taught by the Buddha, peace resides within. Do not look elsewhere for it. When we refrain from battling empty vessels, we find peace had been there all along, in the simplicity of our own consciousness and in our power to let go of things that no longer work. Now let us stay here together in this last quietness. Get into a comfortable position and slowly let your eyes close if they are open. Take one deep, slow breath in, and as you exhale, let out a gentle sigh, releasing all remaining effort. Let your body get heavy, supported, and fully relaxed. Bring your awareness to the great, silent space of your mind. Imagine it as an open night sky. Thoughts can still pass across like distant clouds, but recall, you are the sky and not the clouds. Rest as this expansive, open awareness. Now, sense into the middle of your chest. Imagine a little soft, warm ember smoldering there. This is the heat of your own good heart, your own kindness. Sense this heat spreading through your body gently, a sense of being home with yourself, of peace, of safety. Lastly, experience the heaviness of your whole body yielding to gravity, supported entirely by the surface under you. You are safe. You are supported. You are in peace. There is nothing further for you to do. There is nowhere further for you to be. Simply this, simply here. This darkness, stillness, this breath, softness, this quiet depth. May you take this peace with you as you sleep. May your sleep be sound, healing, and without dreams. May you rise in the morning, feeling renewed, aware that the peace that you have found in yourself is a gift to all whom you encounter. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well, and may you remember, even for a fleeting moment, the vast and quiet space that is your true home. Walk through your days with a lighter step and a softer heart, knowing that you are always held by a grace far greater than your worries. The teachings of Nansen echoed in Joshu's heart. The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. The striving for knowledge, the desire to grasp and understand, only turned the way into something conceptual, something that could be defined and limited. But true realization of the way was beyond both knowing and not knowing. It was the vast, boundless presence that could not be captured by the mind. It was a way of being fully present, fully alive and fully awake to the simplicity of the moment. In this understanding, Joshu realized that the pursuit of answers had always been a form of resistance. His grasping for certainty, for definitions, had kept him separate from the ordinary mind that was always available to him. But now, he saw clearly that the key to awakening was not in the effort to attain something greater, but in the simple act of releasing the effort altogether. The teachings of Nansen had shattered Joshu's mental constructs, revealing the profound truth hiding in plain sight. The way was not a destination to reach, but a path to walk right here, right now. There was no need for elaboration, no need for complexity. The way was in the stillness of the moment, in the very act of surrendering the need for answers. It was in the recognition that everything he had been searching for was already present in the ordinariness of his own experience. The realization came not as a sudden flash of insight, but as a quiet settling within. It was the understanding that everything he needed was already here, and that the way was not something to be searched for, but to be lived. The ordinary mind was not something to attain. It was the mind that was already here, unadorned, unpretentious, and complete in its simplicity. As Joshu sat quietly, his mind relaxed into the present, no longer burdened by the weight of seeking, the pressure of achievement, or the desire to reach some distant goal. In that moment he understood that the path he had been walking, though filled with effort and striving, had always been leading him back to this simplicity. The way had always been right in front of him, in the ordinary moments of life, in the breath he was taking, in the silence that surrounded him. Nansen's teaching had unveiled a profound truth. The ordinary mind, the way, was not something to be obtained through effort, but something to be recognized in the absence of effort. It was not in the striving for something extraordinary, but in the acceptance of the ordinary, where true awakening could be found. This moment of realization, simple and unadorned, became the cornerstone of Joshu's understanding. And so, the path that had once seemed so complicated, so full of confusion, now revealed its true simplicity. The search for meaning, the quest for answers, had always been a distraction from the very thing he had been seeking. The way was here, in the simplicity of this moment, in the acceptance of what is, without needing to change anything. In that quiet moment of clarity, Jaju understood that the journey was never about seeking something beyond himself. It was about letting go of the need to grasp, to define, and to attain. It was about realizing that the way is not somewhere else. It is here, now in the ordinary mind. And with this understanding, Jaju felt the peace he had been searching for settle deeply within him. Not the clarity of understanding something new, but the clarity of recognizing what had been present all along. Buddha's wisdom gently reminds us that there is nothing to seek and nothing to find. Everything we need, everything we long for, is already here, already present within us. The heart of this lesson lies not in some mystical, otherworldly state, but in the simple recognition that the very awareness you are experiencing right now, the awareness reading these words, is the essence of spiritual practice. Why do we struggle to accept that ordinary mind is the way? Zen Buddhism points to our deep conditioning, a belief that spiritual truth must be extraordinary, mystical, or dramatically different from our everyday experience. We imagine enlightenment as a permanent state of bliss, cosmic consciousness, or supernatural abilities. We picture it as something so far removed from ordinary life that it seems out of reach, almost unattainable. But in reality, enlightenment is simply the natural state of awareness, free from the layers of seeking and striving. Our spiritual seeking, ironically, often becomes its own obstacle. It's like a person frantically searching for their glasses while they're already wearing them. We exhaust ourselves looking for something we already possess. The very effort to attain a special spiritual state, to transcend the ordinary, creates a sense of separation between the seeker and the sought, between the ordinary self and some idealized, awakened self. Now, consider your own mind in this very moment. Thoughts rise and fall. Sensations flow through your body. Sounds reach your ears. Emotions come and go, like waves in the ocean. This natural functioning of consciousness, without any special effort, concentration, or striving, is what Nansen refers to as ordinary mind. It's already enlightened, not because it achieves some exceptional state, but because it is the space in which all states arise and dissolve. Zen Master Hangpo simply said, "Your everyday mind, that is the way." It's as if to say, just like now, without seeking anything, without grasping after the fruits of Zen, just this mind that thinks, feels, and perceives. This is Buddha. This ordinariness, this simplicity, is what makes it so difficult to recognize. We keep looking past it, searching for something more impressive, something that fits the mold of what we imagine enlightenment should look like. The great void that Nansen mentions is not an empty space, but rather the spacious awareness in which all experiences, joy and sorrow, clarity and confusion, peace and agitation, appear and disappear. Like the sky that remains unchanged, whether it is filled with clouds or clear, this awareness remains constant through the ever-changing contents of experience. This understanding shifts our approach to spiritual practice. Instead of striving to achieve some special, extraordinary state, we learn to recognize the awareness that is already present. Instead of seeking to transcend ordinary experience, we begin to see the extraordinary nature of ordinariness itself. The sound of rain becomes as sacred as the ringing of temple bells. Washing dishes becomes as profound as formal meditation. In Japanese aesthetics, there is a concept called wabi-sabi, which is the art of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. This appreciation for the ordinary and imperfect mirrors the very understanding that Nansen points to. The way is not found in some perfected, idealized state, but in the natural flow of life, exactly as it is. Tonight, as you sit in stillness and simply experience the fact of being aware of these words, aware of your breath, aware of the sounds around you, can you recognize this ordinary awareness as what you have been seeking all along? Can you relax the effort to become something other than what you already are? As the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. In this moment, peace is not something you need to chase. It is already here, in the simplicity of the present, in the quiet awareness that is always available. The search for peace often leads us further away from it, because we mistake it for something we need to attain. But peace is not something external. It is not a distant state that we must strive to reach. It is already within you, in the ordinary, in the imperfection, in the simplicity of your own mind. When we stop seeking, when we stop striving, and when we recognize the fullness of this present moment, we find that the peace we have been searching for has always been here, waiting quietly in the ordinary mind. The way is not a destination to reach, but the very ground you are already standing on. In accepting your ordinary mind as Buddha mind, you discover that the spiritual journey was never about going somewhere else, but about recognizing where you have always been. The journey is not about changing your circumstances or reaching some distant goal. It's about realizing that you are already where you need to be, fully present in the moment. Let us continue on our journey with this understanding, through the lesson revealed in the story of the two monks and the woman at the river. Two monks were traveling together along a mountain path, making their way to a distant monastery where they planned to continue their studies. Both were dedicated practitioners who had taken strict vows as part of their spiritual training. Among these vows was a commitment to avoid any physical contact with women, a discipline they believed would help maintain their focus on their spiritual development. As they approached a swollen river, they found that the usual bridge had been damaged by recent storms. At the edge of the river, a young woman stood, clearly anxious and uncertain. The current was powerful and treacherous, filled with debris from the mountain runoff, and she was afraid to cross alone. "Please, honored monks," she called out to them, "could one of you help me cross this dangerous water? I'm not strong enough to make it safely on my own." The first monk immediately tensed. His mind raced through the rules they had sworn to follow, and he began thinking of ways to explain why they couldn't help her. Physical contact with women was forbidden, and he couldn't see a way around that. Perhaps they could suggest another way, a solution that wouldn't require breaking their vows. But the second monk, without hesitation or lengthy deliberation, walked over to the woman. Without any mental resistance or conflict, he gently lifted her onto his shoulders and carried her across the dangerous current, ensuring her safety with each careful step. When they reached the other side, he gently set her down on solid ground. She bowed to both monks in gratitude before continuing on her way. The two monks resumed their journey, but the atmosphere between them had shifted. The first monk walked in silence, his thoughts churning. He was unsettled by what had just occurred, and with each passing hour, the internal tension within him grew. Finally, unable to hold his distress any longer, he burst out, "Brother, I cannot understand your behavior at the river. Our training explicitly teaches us to avoid any physical contact with women. Yet you picked that woman up and carried her across the water. How could you so blatantly violate our sacred vows?" The second monk looked at him with gentle surprise. "Brother," he said with simplicity, "I set her down on the other side of the river hours ago, but you are still carrying her." In that moment, the first monk understood the lesson. He had been holding onto something that was no longer present, clinging to his thoughts and judgments about what had happened. The woman had crossed the river, and the situation had passed, but the first monk continued to carry it mentally, burdened by the weight of his attachment to rules and expectations. Buddha's wisdom teaches us that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. In the same way, holding on to past grievances or judgments keeps us tethered to a moment that has long passed. Our suffering arises not from what happens to us, but from our inability to release experiences once they've ended. We replay scenarios in our minds, nursing grievances that only exist in our own thoughts, and in doing so we continue to carry unnecessary weight. This story reveals the profound difference between compassionate action and mental attachment. The second monk acted in the moment, responding to the immediate need with grace and clarity. He didn't carry the weight of his actions beyond the riverbank. In contrast, the first monk became burdened by the rules he clung to, unable to let go of the past and move forward. The second monk knew that true spiritual practice is not about following rigid rules or holding on to attachments. It's about being present in the moment and responding with compassion and wisdom. Zen Buddhism teaches us that the key to freedom from suffering is not in holding tightly to our concepts, rules, or judgments, but in releasing them when they no longer serve us. Letting go of our mental attachments allows us to move with life's flow, to be present with what is, and to free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. By practicing this release, we create space for peace, clarity, and compassionate action in our lives. So, when we find ourselves caught in past experiences, replaying them in our minds, we must ask ourselves, why are we still carrying this? What would it feel like to let go? The answer, as Zen teaches, is simple. Let go of what has passed, release what may come, and rest in the stillness of the present moment. By doing so, we discover that we are free, just like the second monk, who walked across the river with nothing more than the simplicity of now. As the young boatman made his way across the river, the mist enveloping everything in sight, his usual fiery temper began to simmer. Navigating through the fog was difficult, and as he steered his boat carefully through the water, he couldn't shake the feeling of being disturbed by every little thing. The murmur of the water against the hull, the slight creak of the boat's wooden planks, even the whisper of the breeze. His mind, usually so quick to jump to irritation, began to spin with frustration. The fog made the journey more challenging, and with each minute his temper grew shorter. Suddenly, in the distance, he noticed something moving towards him through the mist. It was another boat, seemingly out of nowhere. The boatman couldn't see the figure clearly, but it appeared to be moving directly into his path. His irritation flared immediately. How dare this other boatman be so careless? Doesn't he know how to navigate in fog? The boatman's heart began to race, and a wave of anger washed over him. As the boats drew closer, the young boatman prepared himself for a confrontation. He gripped the oars tightly, ready to shout or even crash into the other boat to teach the careless boatman a lesson. But as the two boats neared, something strange happened. The other boat didn't turn or adjust. In fact, it didn't move at all. The boatman's mind raced. He couldn't see anyone inside the boat. Confused and now even more agitated, he rowed closer and, still furious, reached out to push the boat away. As he reached for the boat, he realized with a sudden shock that there was no one in the boat at all. The boatman paused, his hand still hovering over the empty vessel. His heart, which had been racing with anger only moments before, now began to slow. A quiet realization started to dawn on him. He had been angry at something that was not even real. He had projected his frustration onto this empty boat, and in doing so, he had allowed his own mind to become consumed by anger. In that moment, everything shifted. The fog didn't seem as thick anymore. The water felt less oppressive. The boatman let go of his grip on the oars, allowing the boat to drift for a moment. He took a deep breath, the heavy weight of anger lifting from his chest. Buddha's teachings on anger are deeply clear. We suffer not because of the external world, but because of the projections we place onto it. The boatman had projected his anger, frustration, and irritation onto the empty boat, creating a conflict in his mind where none existed. His anger was not caused by the boat or its supposed occupant, but by his own thoughts, judgments, and assumptions. This story reveals the profound nature of projection. When we become angry or upset, we often project our own internal conflicts onto the world around us. We see others through the lens of our own frustrations and insecurities, and we react to these projections as though they were real. In truth, most of our anger comes from the stories we create in our minds about the way things should be, or the way others should behave. These projections trap us in a cycle of frustration and suffering. In Zen practice, we learn that awareness and mindfulness are the tools that help us break free from this cycle. When we notice ourselves becoming angry or upset, we are invited to pause, observe the situation without attachment, and recognize that our reactions are often based on our internal projections rather than the reality of the situation. By acknowledging this, we can let go of the anger and allow ourselves to return to the present moment, unburdened by the weight of unnecessary emotions. Let the costumes drop, one by one. One by one, let the roles drop, and then inquire, what is left? Not as a thought, not as a notion, but as a raw, immediate, felt sense. What is left when you are not in role? You might find a quiet presence, a plain awareness, an immense and kind spaciousness. This is nearer to your real nature than any tale that you might tell about yourself. Tonight, you don't have to be anyone. You don't have to fix, control, or protect the narrative of your life. The play can wait till morning. For tonight, in dark quiet, you are free to just be. And here, at the border of self and story, we arrive at the last doorway to profound and enduring peace, the lesson that supports all others, the elegant act of release. It is the wisdom of surrender. In a society that values control, striving, and determination, surrender sounds like weakness or defeat. But in Zen, surrender is the ultimate manifestation of strength, wisdom, and trust. It is the acknowledgement that life's greatest treasures, sleep, love, peace, cannot be taken or grasped. They may only be received. Surrender is the bravery to unfold the fist of control and lie down with open hands. It is the intelligence of sinking back into the arms of being itself. It is having faith that the earth will support you, that the breath will support you, that the darkness will rock you into sleep. Visualize an individual who has never seen water in his or her life, standing on the shore of a peaceful, transparent lake. Their heart pounds as they look out at the calm surface, realizing they wish to learn to float, to allow the water to hold them up. Their instructor stands next to them, prepared to assist. Taking a deep breath, the individual slowly steps into the lake. Their body immediately tenses with fear, all muscles bracing as their inner instincts cry out to struggle. The water is strange, threatening in their head. Their muscles contract even further. Their body sways with panic. They frantically kick their legs, splash their arms, and twist their neck to maintain their head above the water. But in the process, they only continue to sink deeper. The more they struggle, the stronger the water drags them down. They gasp for air, struggling against the weight of their own body. But it feels impossible to stay afloat. Exhausted, desperate for help, they look to their teacher, hoping for a lifeline. The instructor does not provide them with a complex explanation or introduce a new method. The instructor merely tells them, "Stop struggling. The fight is what's drowning you. The water will hold you. You need to trust it. Lie back, breathe, and let go. Let the water support you." These words are almost impossible to obey. All their survival instincts yell in protest. How was releasing possibly going to work? How was ceasing the struggle going to help them stay alive? But with a couple of seconds of gulping for air and knowing they have no choice, they inhale deeply. They roll back ever so slowly, their brains screaming in terror. But they attempt it. For one spine-tingling moment, they release all their effort, releasing every muscle, every thought, the tightness in their neck, their shoulders, their arms and legs dissipates. And in that moment, a miracle occurs. The water supports them. It's a moment of awareness. Floating doesn't happen because you try or make it happen. It's not a doing. It's the effortless outcome of not doing. It is a subtle balance between the water and the body. It takes full surrender, trust, and releasing. In the water, there's no struggle, no resistance. There is only the soft buoyancy of the lake supporting them, holding them up with ease. Now, reflect on how we relate to sleep. It is very much like how we relate to the water. When we are anxious, stressed, or have an active mind, we are almost like we are flailing in the water. We are attempting to master the process of sleeping, frantically keeping ourselves afloat, believing that if we just relax, we will drown in the blackness. The more we struggle, the less we float. We are struggling against the very entity that is supposed to buoy us. The state of frenetic energy, tension, and anxiety is similar to that first person in the water, struggling to keep afloat. We think that if we give up struggling, we will sink. But sleep, like the water, is a force of nature. It knows how to buoy us, how to heal us, and how to resuscitate us. Just as we are held by the water when we have faith in it, sleep holds us when we surrender. All the practices we have spoken about tonight, from witnessing our thoughts to opening our hearts, are means of ending the struggle. They allow us to release the tension that we are holding so we can find we are already being held. We are not alone in the dark. We are aided as the individual in the lake learned to release finally and let the water cradle him. Sleep cannot be coerced. It's a natural cycle, like the ebb and flow of the ocean, the day and night. Our bodies learn to rest. All we have to do is believe it. Faith that our body understands what it requires and that it will be able to lead us to rest. It's a profound faith in ourselves and in the way of life. It's letting go of the need to control everything, even the way of falling asleep. It's releasing the ego's preconception that it has to control, even of something as natural as rest. Surrender is not giving up. It's not defeat. It's about giving over, letting go, and trusting that something is bigger than our frantic minds. It's letting us be held, supported, and renewed. To truly surrender, we have to let go of the cycle of never-ending doing and just be. Now, let us take this final step in our path of surrender. There are no longer techniques, no longer practices to adhere to. The time to do is past. It's time to just be. As you rest here, notice the weight of your body. Notice the surface under you, holding you up. Just as the water supported the individual in the lake, the bed supports you entirely. You no longer have to hold yourself up. You are held already. On your next exhalation, give your body permission to let go. Permit the weight of your head and your neck to settle into the pillow. Release any tension you are carrying there. As you exhale once more, feel your shoulders and your arms become heavy. Release the tension in your limbs, in your chest, in your whole body. You don't have to do anything. You simply need to trust. Let the support of the surface below you catch up. Let the water cradle you. Let the bed cradle you. And as you do, let your body relax, your mind calm and sleep gradually sweep you up into its soft arms. Let your body fully let go, as if each muscle were relaxing into the moment. With each breath, release the weight of your torso, your back, your hips. Feel the tension dissolve as your body sinks deeper into the surface beneath you, settling, releasing. Let go of every ounce of weight with a final long exhalation. Feel the weight of your legs, your feet, your entire body melt away, becoming heavy, soft, and fully at rest. Now, let go of control over your breath. You don't have to control it or guide it. Your body already knows how to breathe, just like it knows how to sleep. Just let the breath breathe itself. Come and go with a gentle ease, as if the ocean waves were softly caressing the shore. And last, release your mind. Let go of needing to be the watcher, the one who labels thoughts, analyzes feelings. Release all method, all striving, all effort. Release the need to have it all right. Know that you have done enough. The seeds of peace are sown, and now you need to let the garden grow by itself, effortlessly and spontaneously. Merely recline, surrounded by the expansive, still darkness, and have faith in the night, faith in the quiet, faith in your own capacity to feel profound, restorative slumber. You are the swimmer who has finally ceased fighting, floating calmly on the water. Now let the broad, soft lake of the night envelop you, cradle you, and bear you gently into the gentle depths of sleep. As our journey through these gentle teachings comes to a quite close, reflect on how far we have come together. We began from the restless shores of a busy, thinking mind, and traveled toward the still, deep waters of the heart. Along the way, we learned that our true struggle is not with the world, but with our own resistance to the ever-changing flow of life. We realized that beneath the passing clouds of our worries and thoughts, the vast, open sky of awareness is always peaceful, untouched by turbulence. We have learned to become wise gardeners of our minds, cultivating a space where beauty can grow from our imperfections. We have unburdened ourselves from the heavy costume of a fixed identity, shedding the layers of who we think we should be. And now we stand at the gateless gate of the present moment, realizing that the peace we have long sought is not found in a distant place or time, but in the simple and profound act of surrender. Remember, this path is not about adding something new to yourself. It is about letting go of the things that obscure the peace already within you. You are not building a fortress of calm. You are clearing away the debris of old habits and mistaken beliefs, so that your own natural wellspring of quiet can flow freely. Imagine yourself as a weary traveler, carrying the heavy pack of worries, regrets, and responsibilities on your back. After a long and difficult journey, you have finally arrived home. This bed, this room, this present moment, this is your home. The journey is over for today, and you are safe. You can now gently set down your heavy pack, the one filled with all your concerns. You place it by the door, knowing that it will be there tomorrow if you need it. But for tonight, you are free of its weight. There is no final test to pass, no exam to take, no judgment to face. The only thing left to do is rest, to surrender completely to the sanctuary that you have arrived at. Allow this moment to be a profound act of trust. Trust in the seeds you have planted in the garden of your mind tonight. Trust that even a single moment of mindfulness, a single breath of kindness, a single thought of surrender has already begun its gentle work. Most of all, trust in the deep, innate wisdom of your own body. It knows how to heal, how to rest, and how to sleep. All it asks of you is a quiet, trusting mind. A mind that feels safe enough to let go. The practices we have shared with you were all designed for this one purpose, to create a state of inner safety, a truce in the civil war of the mind. It is through this peaceful surrender that your body can finally enter the deep, restorative rest it so desperately needs and deserves. Now, the work is complete. All that is left is to receive the gift of rest, to allow yourself to sink into the peaceful embrace of sleep. As we conclude, let us take a moment to reflect on the timeless Zen stories that remind us of the wisdom and simplicity of surrender. But the amount of pain we experience, my dear student, depends on the size of the container we place it in. When you are small, like the glass of water, the pain seems overwhelming, all-consuming and bitter. It fills every part of you, and you are unable to see beyond it. But when you widen your perspective, like the vast lake, the same amount of pain dissolves, blending into the vastness of your life. It becomes just one part of the whole, something you can barely taste, something that no longer controls you. The pain you feel in your life is not the issue. It is how you carry it. If you focus solely on the salt, you will always taste bitterness, struggle, and discomfort. But if you learn to let go, to accept the fullness of life in all its dimensions, you will find that the salt becomes negligible. It may still exist, but it no longer has the power to overwhelm you. The young apprentice sat in silence, the lesson settling in his heart. He understood now that the suffering in his life, the complaints he had so often voiced, were not signs of an unjust world. They were simply part of the human experience, something that, when seen from a larger perspective, could be absorbed and understood without drowning in it. Life, like the salt, will always bring its challenges, but our task is not to eliminate the pain, for that is impossible. The task is to expand our hearts and minds so that we can hold our pain with grace, perspective, and acceptance. When we can do this, the bitterness of life becomes a flavor we can barely taste, a passing sensation in a vast ocean of experience. The master turned to his student once more, his eyes full of compassion and wisdom. You see, my dear student, life will always bring its share of suffering, just as the salt is always present in the water. But the key to peace lies not in fighting the salt, but in expanding your heart to embrace the vastness of life, to accept both the sweet and the bitter, the calm and the storm, with the same open hands. Only then will you find true peace. The apprentice, now silent, gazed out over the serene lake, the lesson settling deep within. The water, still and pure, mirrored the sky above, and in that moment he understood. The struggle was not with the pain itself, but with his resistance to it, and in surrendering that resistance, he could find freedom. The salt was just salt. It was how he chose to hold it that made all the difference. But over time, a young creature began to question this way of life. Unlike the others, who clung to the stones with all their might, she often wondered why they all lived in such a constant state of tension, holding on so desperately to the riverbed. Why must we cling to the rocks? She asked her elders. What if we let go? What if we allowed ourselves to be carried by the river instead of fighting it? The older creatures laughed at her naive question, their voices tinged with a mixture of affection and mild disapproval. You don't understand, they said. The river's current is powerful and unpredictable. If you let go, it will sweep you away. The river is not a place to surrender. It is a place to fight for survival. But the young creature couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the river than just the struggle. So one day, after days of watching and wondering, she made a decision. She let go of the rock she had been holding onto and allowed herself to be carried by the gentle flow of the river. At first, she was filled with fear. The current moved beneath her like a whispering giant, and the water seemed so vast, so overwhelming. She wanted to reach out and grab something to steady herself, but instead, she let herself relax, floating with the flow. The fear that had gripped her began to dissipate as she experienced the current in a way she had never known. The water was not a force of destruction, but one of gentle movement, a rhythm that guided her rather than fought against her. As the river carried her further along, she discovered that the current, though strong, was not as threatening as she had imagined. Instead of feeling like a victim of the river, she felt in harmony with it, as though she had become part of its eternal flow. The rocks and roots that once seemed so necessary for survival were now distant memories, objects of her past struggle. After some time, the young creature arrived at a place where the river widened, and the waters were still, deep, and serene. The current there was gentle, like the soft embrace of the world itself. The creature floated in this peaceful space, feeling more alive and present than ever before. She realized that by letting go, she had found a profound freedom. She was no longer at odds with the river. She had learned to trust it. The elders noticed that the young creature was no longer clinging to the rocks. Instead, she was floating effortlessly, moving with the current, and they were curious. What happened? They asked. How did you find the courage to let go? The young creature smiled and replied, I found that the river is not something to fear. It is a place of flow, of peace, of life itself. When I stopped fighting, I began to see that the river could guide me rather than harm me. All it took was trust. The elders listened closely, their faces softening with realization. Perhaps there was something more to the river than they had known. Perhaps, in their constant clinging, they had missed the beauty of simply allowing themselves to be carried. In time, the entire village began to let go, to trust the river's current. One by one, each creature released their grip on the rocks and allowed the river to carry them, peacefully, safely, and with a new sense of connection to the flow of life. They learned that true survival did not come from clinging to what they knew, but from trusting the current that had always been with them. The crystal river, which had once seemed like a dangerous force, became a symbol of surrender and trust. It carried them all in its gentle embrace, and in doing so it showed them that life's greatest lessons often lie not in resisting but in yielding. And so, the young creature's question echoed through the village for generations to come. Why must we cling? Why not trust the current? And in the answer, they found the wisdom of the river, the wisdom of letting go. The elders, with their long years of experience, would warn, the current is dangerous. It will sweep you away to places unknown. Safety lies in staying exactly where you are. Their voices carried the weight of their convictions, the years spent clinging to the rocks, fearful of the unseen forces beneath the river's surface. Yet, one small creature grew weary of the endless grasping, the daily struggle to hold onto familiar stones, and the weight of the fear that had kept him tethered for so long. Day after day, he watched as the current moved with effortless grace, flowing smoothly over the riverbed, as though it carried the wisdom of ages. He saw how it was unhurried, yet persistent, moving with purpose, as if it knew exactly where it was going. And in this, he found himself entranced. While the others complained about the effort required to maintain their grip on the rocks, he wondered, what would it feel like to trust that flowing water? "I am tired of clinging," he declared one morning, his voice filled with both resolve and fear. "Though I cannot see where it leads, I trust that the current knows its destination. I shall let go and allow it to carry me where it will. I fear that if I continue clinging, I shall die of boredom before I ever truly live." The other creatures gasped in horror. "Fool," they cried. "Let go and that current will tumble you mercilessly across the rocks below. You will be battered and broken, dying far more quickly than any boredom could ever kill you." But the small creature had made his decision. He was determined to free himself from the bondage of his fear, the shackles of the known, and to trust in something greater than his need for security. With a deep breath, he released his grip on the familiar stone. Immediately, the current seized him. Just as the others had predicted, he was tossed and tumbled across the rocky bottom, the rough stone scraping and battering him. Pain surged through his small body, a pain he had never known while safely clinging to the rocks. Yet something extraordinary began to happen. Despite the pain, he refused to grab for new anchors. He surrendered fully to the current's power, refusing to resist, to fight. As he continued to surrender, the water gradually lifted him higher, and the tumbling began to cease. The rocks could no longer reach him, and he began to flow with the current itself, no longer fighting its direction. He became one with its movement, carried by the very force that had once seemed so threatening. He moved with the river, as though he had always been meant to be part of its flow. As he traveled downstream, other creatures from distant parts of the river witnessed something they had never seen before. Here was one of their own kind, yet he appeared to be flying through the water, moving with such power and elegance. "See a miracle," they cried out. "A creature like ourselves, yet he soars. Surely he is the Messiah come to save us all." The flowing creature heard their cries, and though moved with compassion for their misunderstanding, he called back to them, "I am no more Messiah than any of you. The river delights in lifting us all free. If only we dare to let go. Our true work is not clinging to the bottom, but embracing this voyage, this grand adventure of trust and flow." But the creatures, still clinging to their familiar rocks, did not hear his words. They only cried louder, "Savior, Savior." Even as they spoke, they tightened their grips on the rocks and roots that had held them for so long. They watched as the small creature disappeared around a bend, and they began weaving legends about the miraculous Savior who had briefly graced their village. Buddha's wisdom reminds us, you only lose what you cling to. This ancient teaching illuminates the profound paradox at the heart of the human experience. We spend our lives grasping for security, control, and stability, believing that our safety depends on holding tight to familiar circumstances, relationships, and identities. Yet, in this very grasping, we create the suffering we seek to avoid. We resist change, and in doing so, we tie ourselves to a future that will never arrive. We refuse to acknowledge the fluidity of life, and instead, we trap ourselves in a cycle of tension, constantly battling against the natural flow of existence. Why do we cling so desperately when the current offers to carry us toward unknown adventures? Zen Buddhism reveals that from early childhood, we are conditioned to believe that the known is safe and the unknown is dangerous. This conditioning becomes a spiritual obstacle, preventing us from growing beyond the limitations of our familiar world. We also suffer from the illusion of control, believing that by grasping at circumstances, relationships, and identities, we can somehow stop the natural flow of change. But this belief creates enormous tension because it puts us in opposition to reality itself. Life is a constant movement, a flow that cannot be stopped or controlled. And when we resist this truth, we exhaust ourselves, fighting currents far more powerful than our individual will. The current of life will carry us whether we choose to fight or to flow. The real question is not whether the current will come, but how we choose to respond to it. Will we cling to the rocks, trapped by fear and the illusion of safety? Or will we surrender to the current, trusting that it knows where it is taking us, and that, in the end, we will be carried to a place of peace? The choice is ours, and in making it, we discover that the true miracle lies not in the destination, but in the act of letting go. In that moment of clarity, Joshu felt the weight of his search lift, as though a veil had been removed. The very effort to seek, to grasp, to achieve something beyond his present experience had been the source of his confusion. Nansen's words, simple yet profound, unraveled the layers of expectation that had clouded Joshu's mind. The ordinary mind, the way, was not something to be attained or cultivated. It was already here, in the present moment, waiting to be recognized, not through striving or effort, but through letting go of the need to attain anything at all. Joshu, sitting in the temple hall, felt a quiet peace wash over him. It was not the kind of peace he had imagined, not the stillness of an empty mind or the absence of thought. It was the peace of deep acceptance, of recognizing that everything he had been seeking had always been within his grasp. The ordinary mind was the way, and it had been here all along, woven into the very fabric of his daily life. There was no need for grand spiritual achievements, no need to chase after enlightenment. The way was not hidden in some distant place. It was right here, in the simplicity of his own experience. If the echo is anger toward another, you may release a soft wish for their peace. May you be at ease. This exercise isn't playing dumb about what you feel. It isn't denial. It is inner hygiene, the soft removal of weeds from your garden, the deliberate selection of the reverberations you wish to live among. Each new intention you sow creates a ripple, and those ripples come back as the quality of your own internal environment. Tonight, you can start a new echo, with one word of gentleness, with one breath of faith, with one spark of mercy. You sow seeds for a gentle tomorrow. Let us take a pause here. Notice the freshness of this current breath. It is free from the memories of the past. With every breath in, you breathe in clarity and possibility. With every breath out, you let go of the old stories, the echoes that no longer work for you. You are here. You are free to start again. And as you become more attuned to this power, the power to determine the echoes of your mind, you realize an even profounder thing. Not only do our intentions leave echoes, but our very perceptions determine the reality in which we live. The fears that keep us awake at night often feel as solid as stone. They loom in the mind like shadowy beasts lurking in the corners of the room. Anxiety can seem like a predator crouching just beyond the light, threatening our safety, demanding our vigilance. Yul Zen wisdom whispers that these creatures are not what they appear. They are forms projected by the mind itself, shadows taken for monsters. When we gaze more intently, when we direct the light of consciousness upon them, their concreteness starts to disappear. We tend to think our thoughts are immediate accounts of reality itself, as if the mind were a perfect mirror of the world as it is. But the Zen teachings prompt us to take a closer look. Our experience of the world is not the world itself. It is a representation of the world, painted brushstroke by brushstroke with the brush of our own mind. And if we are the painter, then we hold more power than we realize. There was a story of a solitary mountain village terrorized by a legend of a terrible tiger for generations. Nobody had ever caught a glimpse of this tiger, but everybody knew it was around. Children were told not to stray at night. Farmers would speak of a herd growl in the wind. So entrenched was the fear that even the creaking of bamboo at night would send chilling fear along the village. This shared fear was fueled by a painting in the temple. Centuries ago, a Zen master renowned for his realistic paintings had painted an exquisite tiger bursting from the bamboo. The eyes glowed with life, the muscles flexed, the fur rippling with movement. It was so real that everyone who gazed upon it experienced a primal fear surge in their chest. Among the villagers, one man, Kuji, was especially afflicted. The image of the tiger lived in his mind day and night. When he lay down to sleep, he swore he could hear the beast breathing outside his window. He felt certain he could smell its musky scent in the air. Though no paw had ever touched the earth of the village, Kuji's heart lived in constant fear of being devoured. Finally, frantic and weary, he visited the temple in search of assistance. Bowing deeply in front of the resident Zen master, his voice shook. "Master, I must stop. The tiger in the painting terrifies me. I know it exists. I sense its presence. I am afraid it will jump from the scroll and kill me and my family." The master sat in silence. He did not laugh, he did not scold, he did not tell Kuji that his fear was foolish. He knew that to Kuji, the tiger was all too real. Instead, the master opened a cabinet and drew out a delicate paintbrush and a tiny pot of black ink. He gave them carefully to Kuji and said, "You are correct. The tiger is strong, but you have forgotten something. You have forgotten who wields the brush." He pointed to the painting. The same brain which painted the tiger is the brain that presently quakes before it. The strength that inspires fear is the same strength that can inspire protection. Go back home. Tonight, at the peak of the fear, when you sense the tiger's gaze upon you, take this brush, dip it in the ink, and paint a sturdy cage around it. Kuji was confused, but despair courageous. During the night, the fear returned. When darkness fell, he seemed to hear a low growl resonating from the scroll itself. His heart pounded. His hands trembled. But then he recalled the master's words. He shook with trembling fingers, lit a candle, dipped the brush into the ink, and moved in closer to the painting. He gazed into the tiger's growling eyes, and with a burst of resolve, he painted the first black bar of a cage. Another, another. Steadily, slowly, he painted until the bars wrapped around the great beast. The moment he finished the final line, a great silence fell over the room. The presence that had stalked him for years vanished. The tiger was still there, still magnificent, still powerful, but no longer menacing. It was contained. A wave of relief washed through Kujicep's body. His breath came freely for the first time in years, and in that moment he understood the Master Sep's lesson. The fear never existed in the tiger. The fear existed in his mind's portrait of the tiger, and as the mind had developed a threat, so too could it develop safety. The fear was a product of the mind, and the mind also held within it the instruments for its own freedom. This tale illuminates one of the most profound lessons of Buddhism, that our perception of reality is conditioned by the mind. This does not translate to the outside world being illusory or unreal. The world exists, but our peace or suffering does not emanate directly from the world. It emerges from the manner in which the mind perceives, colors, and frames the world, the narrative it weaves, the strokes of thought it places on the canvas of our consciousness. The tiger of our fear, the fear of failure, fear of tomorrow. These are all portraits, persuasive portraits. Yes, portraits so realistic, they move our breath, stiffen our chest, and ripple waves of adrenaline through the body. But still, they are mental portraits. When we are disoriented with fear, we are like Kuji before the scroll, convinced the tiger is alive, real, stalking, poised to strike. The practice is to recall, we are also the artist. We grasp the brush, we grasp the ink. With the stroke of awareness and the pigment of wisdom, we are able to cease being passive victims of our constructions of mind and take on the active roles in how we construct our experience. We are able to paint a cage. The cage is not denial, not suppression. It is not about imprisoning what we are feeling. It is about providing context, clarity, and wisdom. It is delineating the boundary between the untamed sensation of fear and the ultimate reality of our existence. It is having a sanctuary where the tiger can be without frightening the whole kingdom of the heart. To exercise painting a cage around your own tigers of fear, you can follow a simple 3-step procedure whenever overwhelming worry or anxiety happens. Step 1. Don't wrestle with the feeling or attempt to push it aside. Meet it with soft awareness and label it. Ah, this is fear. This is anxiety. This is how it physically feels in my body at this moment. Softening of resistance comes with acknowledgement. It enables you to breathe. Step 2. Remember the painter. Gently remind yourself that this fear, though strong, is being created by the painting of the mind. My mind is painting a future picture now, or this is a story thought, not current moment reality. This reminder makes essential space. You are not the tiger. You are the observer who sees the tiger. Step 3. Paint the cage. Intentionally put a frame of wisdom around the fear. The cage can come in many shapes. It can be the cage of impermanence. This is hard, but it is not permanent. It will go away. It can be the cage of self-kindness. It's okay to be scared. I can be gentle with myself today, or it can be the cage of perspective. What is really true at this exact moment. Here in my bed, outside of the narrative. By putting paint on the cage, you don't kill the tiger, you just situate it in its rightful place. It is no longer the master of your inner realm. It is just one form among many, suspended within the larger understanding of your awareness. And in that suspension, peace becomes possible, even as fear remains visible. As we discover that we are both the cause of the echo and the artist of the tiger, we might still find ourselves with another profound and painful emotion, loneliness. For in the still hours of night, the world feels huge and unpeopled. We feel isolated small selves suspended in an ocean of darkness, surrounded by our terrors. So the greatest wisdom of this segment of our odyssey is the greatest remedy for separation. It is the lesson that dismantles the walls of solitude and shows us the reality of our belonging. It is the exquisitely beautiful and deeply profound vision of oneness, the perception that the feeling of being a discrete, isolated self is the largest illusion of all. In the ancient texts, this reality is explained using a stunning metaphor called Indra's jewel net. Visualize, if you can, a cosmic web of infinite size extending in all directions, beyond horizon, beyond imagination. At every nexus where the threads of this limitless web intersect, there lies an immaculate, radiant jewel. Each jewel glows with infinite facets, clear and transparent like crystal, and in each jewel, if you look hard enough, you can see the light of each other jewel in the web. Each holds all the others, and within each of those holds more reflections, again and again forever. In this vision, no jewel is separate from another. None radiate apart. Each jewel holds the all, and the all is in each jewel. This jewel net of Indra is perhaps the deepest metaphor for reality itself. Each of us, each being, each moment, each breath is one of these jewels. On the surface, we seem isolated, just as each jewel lies in its own position on the net. But in reality, we are inseparably linked, supported, and defined by our connection to all the others. You are not a sealed fortress. You are a nexus of the world. Your intake of breath is only made possible by trees, grasses, plankton, and the activity of innumerable living organisms. The water that your body contains was once a passing cloud, a mountain brook, an ocean current. The food which sustains you bears the sun's warmth and minerals from the earth. The actual words you use to think were formed by generations ahead of you, by poets, ancestors, strangers you will never meet. Look closely, and you can't discover a single part of you that exists outside the great whole. The solitary, isolated ego is an illusion, an optical trick. The truth is you're caught in a shimmering web of life. You are never, ever alone. And from that understanding stems compassion. When we understand that the other jewels exist in us, and we in them, it is impossible to wish the other hurt without hurting ourselves. Their happiness vibrates within us. Our serenity reflects back into them. The mirage of separation disappears, and with it, the bleak pain of isolation yields to the warm security of belonging. In order to sense this truth in your own self, you can undertake a meditation of deep seeing. Lying here, bring your awareness to your breathing. Observe the air coming in and going out. Remember, this air is not yours. It is part of the vast communal atmosphere of the planet. The very molecules that enter your lungs have perhaps previously been part of a rainforest tree, a wave on the ocean, or even the breath of a loved one. With each breath, you are in silent, intimate union with all of life. Bring awareness to your body now. Sense its weight, its heat. See that this body is not something other, that it is composed of nothing but non-body elements. Food, water, light, earth. It is a temporary, wondrous coming together of the cosmos. Your ancestors and your parents live in every cell, their histories encoded in your DNA. The stars themselves twinkle in the minerals of your bones. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe temporarily condensed into this human vessel. Then let your mind settle upon one that you love. Sense the intangible thread of bond between your jewel and theirs. Observe how their joy warms you, how their sorrow touches you. This thread is true, even at a distance. Now take this vision outward. Imagine all the folk in your town, every one of them a sparkling jewel. Imagine the folks across your nation, across the whole world, each living on the same air, each buoyed by the same earth, each with their own dreams, billions of jewels, each reflecting and nourishing the others. And there you sit, radiating in the big net, a jewel within jewels, your light indistinguishable from the light of all. You are being held. You have always been held. We are held up by all the other strands. Your light is an image of all the other lights, and theirs is an image of yours. Rest now in this sense of belonging. You are not an isolated piece. You are a necessary, lovely, an indivisible part of the entire wondrous web of life. And now, having made our way back to the plain, irrefutable fact of the here and now, we may make one final freeing move. We may start to release our hold on the weightiest burden we bear of all, the tale of me. Our minds can be obsessed all through the night with this figure we refer to as me. We worry about its safety. We defend its reputation. We regret its past mistakes. We project its future with endless plans and fears. This ongoing project of constructing, polishing, and protecting the sense of self is a full-time job, and it is utterly exhausting. The wisdom of Zen provides the final refuge, permission to quit this job, at least for tonight. The knowledge that the self we toil over is not so solid, not so fixed, not so real as it seems. There is an ancient tale of a great thespian, famous throughout the land for his performance as a king. For years he performed the role with such fervor and skill that audiences leapt to their feet in thunderous applause. But as time passed, something odd happened. He started to forget that he was an actor. He got so immersed in the character that he became convinced he really was the king. He kept on wearing the heavy velvet robes and golden crown, even after the curtain call. He addressed his family in a commanding and regal voice. He paced all night, worrying about the destiny of his kingdom, which in reality was nothing but a painted background on a wooden stage. The crown weighed on his head. The velvet was stifling in the heat. The necessity of always being royal, dignified and firm, was a dreadful burden. He was no longer free. He was a captive of his position. One day, while strolling through a village in his complete costume, he spotted a little child staring at him with big eyes. The child had never been to the theater and knew nothing about kings. With childlike curiosity, he grabbed at the actor's sleeve and inquired, "Mister, why are you dressed in such silly clothes? And why do you appear so unhappy?" The question cut the delusion of the actor like sun through clouds. He gazed at the heavy robes, at the silly crown digging into his head. He gazed at the stupidity of his weight, and then he laughed. It wasn't a superficial laugh. It was a laugh of deep relief. He wasn't a king. He was just an actor. He had a name, a family, a life beyond the stage. The problems of the kingdom weren't his to fix. The burden of constant dignity wasn't his to bear. That night, for the first time in years, he returned home, set aside the robes and crown, and ate a humble meal with his family. The food was sweeter. The air was lighter. He was free. This is a reflection of the Buddhist doctrine of anatta, not self. As the actor, we all tend to forget we are in character. We don the heavy costume of parent, career, person, student, friend. We don the more subtle costumes as well. The costume of the competent one, the strong one, the anxious one, the wounded one. We don them so well that we forget they are not us. They are only roles, only costumes, only stories. The truth is lighter, freer, roomier than any identity we grasp. The worried one, the successful one, the not good enough one, the one who always has to hold it all together. We confuse these parts, these masks, with who we really are. We grasp them as if they were our very selves. But this fabricated self, this narrative of me, is what Buddhism refers to as the ego, and bearing it is a weighty, ongoing burden. We groom and defend this character endlessly. We fret over how it is seen. We are threatened every time its story is questioned. And at night, this weight often becomes noisy, taking the form of uneasy replay of the day's showing, as profound worry over the future of our character. The instruction of not self is like the naive child pulling on the actor's sleeve. It is a call to stand before our experience and inquire, who am I truly under this disguise? If we examine it closely, that which appeared to be an immovable, fixed self emerges as something rather light and fluid, a mere aggregation of moving processes, body, sensations, thoughts, memories, moods. There is no immovable king in the castle, no unmovable identity carved into stone. And this is the deepest freedom. If you are not your history, then you are not controlled by past errors. If you are not your fear, then you are not necessarily destined to live as the fearful one. These are roles, masks you have worn for a while, and for tonight you are free to shed them. You can lay down the wearisome task of being you. You can rest as the simple, quiet consciousness that is left when all roles are set aside. To practice this deep act of unburdening, start by paying attention to the identities you are wearing presently. Maybe you whisper to yourself, "Tonight I am wearing the costume of a person worried about work," or "I am wearing the costume of a person who does not feel well." Behold these not as absolute truths, but as passing vestments. Receive them with grace. Next, in the tender drama of your mind, stage a simple exercise of letting go. Imagine yourself unzipping the thick overcoat of the warrior and having it fall from your shoulders to the floor. Visualize removing the tight helmet of the planner and placing it aside. Deposit the shield of having it all together.